Chapter 975. No one would make such a joke in the hunting pavilion. With Qian Wudong's affirmation, the fat elder was sure that Lu Yi had completed all the tasks on the jade slip. But, could he really do it? 6 tasks in half a month. Even a cultivator in the Divine Sea realm might not be able to do it. It would take a lot of time and energy just to find people. Then I'll leave now. Lu Yi gave back the jade slip and bowed. You're not taking any more tasks? The fat elder asked casually. Not for now, Lu Yi said, waving his hand. Not for now. The main reason was that he had run out of military credits. He only had a little more than 20,000 military credits left. A tracking plate cost 30,000 credits. He couldn't afford it. Besides, he had been running around for a long time. He needed to rest for a while. At least, he needed time for his third senior brother to cultivate. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to earn so many military credits. Normally, the law enforcement team would use the military credits to exchange for spiritual sticks for cultivation after completing a task. When the military credits were used up, they would take on more tasks. This was the cultivation rhythm of most cultivators. They would use up their military credits as fast as possible and turn them into their own resources. Lu Yi left. In the hunting pavilion, Qian Wudong and the fat elder looked at each other. Elder, do you think it's possible that it's God's will? Qian Wudong asked seriously. It's impossible. The fat elder shook his head. Even with the blessing of the heavens, a person's luck would not be that good. In half a month, 8 mission targets. After deducting the cost of traveling back and forth, one person would be captured every 2 days on average. That was not something that could be explained by the blessing of the heavens. How did I do it? Qian Wudong couldn't figure it out. The fat elder didn't think much of it. I said I borrowed the tracking plate, but I doubted it. But now, there's no other explanation except for the tracking plate. I don't have that many tracking plates. No. He can ask Inshio. You went on a task with the big guy. You should know how to complete the task. Qian Wudong nodded. You can try. He was afraid that Inshio would tell him, yes, I was lucky that time. Xiao Ruiyun replied slowly. How is it? The fat old man asked. Qian Yudang was amused. He really used the tracking disc to complete his task. How extravagant! Ever since the Martial King entered the Law Enforcement Division, he had completed 4 missions that took him less than a month. In other words, I had used up 4 tracing discs in a month's time. How could I have so few tracking plates? I just remembered something. The fat old man said slowly, back then, Feng Yujiang had used the tracing plate several times to find the specific location of these weaklings in the Demon Ridge and then killed them. It caused a small panic in the Wanimo Ridge. You were very understanding back then. How could Feng Yujiang have so few tracking discs to use? He also asked me face to face. I said I could make one myself. But the tracing board is a gift from heaven. How could Feng Yujiang make it? If that's the case, then it's something that this old man can know. It's possible that the tracing board can't be made. Feng Yujiang doesn't know how to make it. It's natural that Lu Yi knows how to make it. After all, they are both from the Jade Blood sect. Qian Yudang nodded slightly. If that was the case, then everything made sense. That Inshio is a treasure. The fat old man said, this explosive fire spirit rock was refined by me. If the tracking plate can also be refined, then the value of my existence will be too small. That's why you always ask me to take on difficult missions. It's also because of Inshio. You are afraid that I will get involved in dangerous situations. That Inshio even dared to trespass into a place like the Shocking Waves Lake. He must be a coward. Originally, you wanted to use those missions to kill some time for me, but you thought that I could still make the tracing board. If that was the case, then the plan would work. What's his plan? He can always ask me to take on more missions. Does the Law Enforcement Division have such rules and precedents? The fat old man asked. Find a chance to talk to me. Qian Yudang was worried. If King Wu really didn't have any ambition and was just muddling along, then this matter would be troublesome. The key is that looking at King Wu's path of growth, how can I know that Inshio is a person who knows his place? But as the old head said, he can always ask me to take on more missions. The Law Enforcement Division doesn't have such precedents. In the courtyard, King Wu returned and saw Lin Yinxiu and Xiao Run. They were probably resting. The snowman in the courtyard had long melted, and the pure white snow had turned into a clear stream. King Wu retreated from his room and began to make the explosive fire stone. In a few days it would be time for the delivery. He was calculating whether or not he could increase the production slightly. That way, he would be able to earn less battle points each month. Even if he could, the increase would be too little. Otherwise, it would be easy to explain. Earning 700,000 battle points each month was just right. While he was busy, the battlefield imprint didn't send a message. King Wu checked and found that it was a message from Geng Lui, asking if he was in Grand Sky City. King Wu hurriedly replied. He thought that the A8 Brigade was carrying out some mission and lacked manpower. Who knew that they were called to drink? The A8 Brigade had just returned from a mission. Every time they returned from a mission, it was already a tradition for them to gather. King Wu naturally agreed. He walked out of his room, thought for a moment, and came to the room of 8th senior brother. He knocked heavily on the door. Drinking was naturally something that could be done alone. It was best if there were fewer people. Moreover, now that he was working in the law enforcement hall, he didn't have much contact. Pan Sihai pushed open the door and walked out. King Wu stated his purpose. No one called to drink. If senior brother has something to do, why don't we go together? Pan Sihai laughed. Such a good thing, of course I can't miss it. Let's go together. You go too. Pan Sihai poked his head out of the room next door. Even Hu Pe, who was resting in the corridor, scuttled to King Wu's shoulder, looking like they would share both fortune and misfortune. Let's go. King Wu called out. The 8 of them immediately flew into the air. After a while, they arrived at the 100 Fragrances house. The small hall was full of guests and was very quiet. Pan Sihai led Lin Yinxiu and Xiao Riyun in and saw Pan Sihai waiting outside. Yeah, he came late. He'll have to punish himself with 8 cups later, Pan Sihai said coldly. After that, I called King Wu as junior brother. But now that King Wu's cultivation was deteriorating rapidly and was about to surpass me, it was too appropriate to call him junior brother. Moreover, we were familiar with each other, so calling him Ie was more intimate. Seeing the 2 people King Wu brought, he asked, Those 2 are? That's your 8th senior brother Lin Yinxiu, and that's your brigade member Xiao Riyun. King Wu introduced. Hearing that Lin Yinxiu was King Wu's 8th senior brother, Xiao Xinghe was extremely cold. Xiao Riyun was also a beauty and was praised by Pan Sihai. Although that guy didn't use his brain when he spoke, he was a bad person by nature. He was good with words and made people feel close to him. The 7 of them walked in together. The 100 Fragrances house was big. The small hall inside had 8 floors and could accommodate dozens of tables. The front hall didn't have many elegant courtyards and the environment was pleasant. It was mainly used to entertain regular guests. Geng Lui had a close relationship with the lady boss of the 100 Fragrances house. Every time he came, he was naturally placed in the elegant courtyard. The courtyard that time was the next time. It was the same under the environment. It was all wrong. In the pavilion in the courtyard, at a long table, a few members of the A8 Brigade were sitting on the right and left. They were drinking and having fun. Xiao Xinghe led King Wu and the others over. After greeting each other, King Wu introduced Lin Yinxiu and Xiao Riyun. The others didn't have much reaction, but their attitude was cold. Geng Lui looked at Xiao Riyun in surprise. I often go in and out of the law department's small hall, so I naturally recognize Xiao Riyun. I didn't expect that the department head would be willing to let this guy out and let him join King Wu's team. It could be seen how important King Wu was in the department head's heart. Although he saw through it, he didn't say anything. He only treated Xiao Riyun as a special law enforcement hall cultivator. Mu Jing was obviously very depressed. Because every time there was a gathering, there was only one man. Even if they were as close as brothers and sisters, there wasn't much to do. Xiao Riyun's arrival made you one less person to whisper to. For a moment, the 2 men gathered together. There was no coarse and delicious food served. Everyone didn't have cultivation, so they drank freely and chatted in low voices. The scene was silent. There shouldn't be any cultivators gathered in the courtyards on the right and left, so they couldn't hear the conversation on both sides. In fact, there weren't any restrictions or formations in the courtyard. If they didn't want others to overhear them, they couldn't activate the restrictions to isolate them. This was only done when they weren't discussing important matters. It wasn't that troublesome for ordinary gatherings. No matter what, activating the restriction formation would consume spirit stones. After 8 rounds of drinking, the atmosphere became increasingly cold. Gang, Lu Yi, and the others struck their bowls with their chopsticks, either singing loudly or singing softly. The King of Wu listened with great interest. Although I could hear what they were singing, I could feel the deep friendship between the members of the A8 Brigade. When cultivators left their sects, they retreated to the small lands of the 4 provinces and entered the military province guards. Although their sects were still the least they could rely on, the friends they made along the way who shared the same ideals could be counted on. This way, they won't be as dull as the young masters in their lives. The atmosphere was harmonious. Suddenly, a stern shout came from the side courtyard. "What are you wailing and howling about, disturbing people's peace?" The singing and singing came to an abrupt end. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. There were some who were angry because of this. After all, their side was in the wrong first. Disturbing the noise of others was appropriate. It was also because everyone's mood was too low this time and they drank too much that they considered this. In the past, when the A8 Brigade gathered, although it was quiet, it would still be like today. Gang Lui then ordered, "Luyun, activate the restriction formation in the courtyard." "Understood." Xiao Xinghe accepted the order and was about to activate the restriction formation in the courtyard. At that moment, a loud cry suddenly came from the side courtyard. It seemed like no one was frightened. Immediately after, the voice of the person who shouted just now sounded, "Boss Shen, if he drinks that wine, he is giving your brother's face. Brother, your mood today is too good, so you don't have to do anything polite." Xiao Xinghe's figure paused. Gang Lui also suddenly raised his head, looking in the direction of the side courtyard. Chapter 976. Lu Ye's wine cup paused as he listened carefully. If he did not hear wrongly, the exclamation just now should be the voice of the lady boss of the 100 Fragrances house, Shen Manzi. He did not know what was going on at the table next to them. How could they say such arrogant words when they came to this gathering? Those who could be placed in the elegant courtyard were definitely regular customers of the 100 Fragrances house. Every time these customers came, Shen Manzi would usually propose a few toasts to them. This was also a normal business practice for businessmen. Shen Manzi should have gone to propose a toast, but he did not know if she did something wrong that caused the other party to make things difficult for her. "Leader!" Xiao Riyun stood not far away and looked at King Gengwu. King Gengwu sat still and shook his head slowly. "Don't worry about it first." There were all kinds of cultivators who came to the 100 Fragrances house to have fun. Shen Manzi was extremely beautiful and outstanding. Although this kind of thing was not common, it had happened before and was easily resolved by Shen Manzi. She was originally a person who knew how to dance, otherwise she would not be able to run such a restaurant in Haotian City. In the courtyard next door, Shen Manzi's voice could be heard. "Esteemed guests, it is rare for you to come. I will drink a few more cups with you. Let me toast first." Not long after, there was a loud cheer from the other side. It was probably Shen Manzi drinking a cup. "I have long heard that Boss Shen has a good tolerance for alcohol. Today I see that the rumors are true. Come, let me toast Boss Shen." Another person spoke. There was another round of passionate persuasion. Although Shen Manzi declined politely, she could not resist the enthusiasm of the other party and could only drink another cup. "You toast Shen Manzi." No one spoke again. Brother Gengwu's gentle voice could be heard, "But I can't drink anymore. If I drink anymore, I will really get drunk." One Shu is already giving face. He has already accompanied the other brothers. Why is he getting drunk when it comes to you? Does Shen Manzi think highly of you? How would I dare? Esteemed guest, you must be joking. Since she thinks highly of you, I will drink all of it. Esteemed guest, please let go. While they were arguing, in the pavilion in the courtyard, Shangguan Qiu vaguely felt that something was wrong. He looked at Gung Lui and said, "Leader, it seems like they are coming for us." Otherwise, there was no reason for him to go overboard. Those who can be placed in the elegant courtyard must be frequent guests. Since they are frequent guests, they must give Brother Wu Wang some face. Moreover, they must also know the relationship between Brother Wu Wang and Gung Wanshi. Although Gung Lu Yi was at the Spirit Sea realm, he was still the captain of the Law Enforcement Division's Team A8. In Vast Sky City, he was also a big signboard. How would an abnormal person dare to drink and cause trouble outside? Unless we're targeting the 8th A8 squad and just want to tear apart all pretense of cordiality and use Brother Wu Wang to disgust Soldier Gung. It's Team A7 and Team D1. Kang Yuanxiao recognized their voices and confirmed Shangguan Qiu's speculation. Although they were all part of the Law Enforcement Division's Law Enforcement Division, they didn't always get along well with each other. Perhaps it was because of their own reasons, or perhaps it was because of the sex behind them, but there was never any great grudges or friction between them. Of course, there was even less competition between them. Team A8, A7, and Team D1's relationship could be considered harmonious. This was especially true for Team A7. Team A8 had never worked together with them on a mission before. During the mission, Team A7 changed the flow of the mission without permission in order to steal credit, which indirectly led to the death of a member of Team A8. This was also the reason why Team A8 only had 7 members. Although half of the 7 squad's battle merits were deducted as punishment, the dead member of the 8th squad had a way to revive. This caused the members of the 8th squad to view the 7th squad with animosity. Of course, Team A7's impression of Team A8 wasn't much better. In their view, this member of Team A8 died because he was careless enough. Otherwise, why would he die when everyone else was fine? In the end, they worked hard for so little credit. Go take a look. Gung Wanshi drank the wine in his cup and stood up. Team A8's members all stood up. They don't move. Gung Lui instructed, and then his figure leaped and landed in the neighboring courtyard. Immediately after, some people exclaimed, "Gung Lu Yi." Gung Lu Yi's voice sounded, "If you want a drink, drink with them. How can these women bully a man? You are all guests. We only came to toast you because we think highly of you. How can this be called bullying? What right does Gung Lu Yi have to stand up?" Gung Lu Yi said in a low voice, "Drink or drink. If you want to drink, then drink. If you want to drink, then scram." Brother Lu Yi is really extravagant. The lady boss has already spoken, and he's chasing the guests away. Is this how 100 Fragrances House does business? I've long heard that Brother Lu Yi takes good care of Shin Manzi. It seems like it's true. It must be because of Shin Manzi's charm that Brother Lu Yi is depressed under the bed. That's why Brother Lu Yi takes good care of him. I've heard that there are many people who take care of Wanshi Shu. No one laughed. You can take care of Shin Manzi too, as long as Wanshi Shu is willing. Crash. The sound of a wine jar being intact sounded, followed by an angry shout, "Gung Lu Yi, he dares to hit you. Hit me." In an instant, the courtyard next door was in a mess. Boss Shen and the others who had been paying attention to the commotion immediately stood up, and each of them rushed over like lightning. Spiritual Power, Xiao Xinghe and Lin Yinxiu also followed closely behind. Looking over, Wanshi Shu and the others' eyes almost popped out of their sockets, because Gung Lu Yi was surrounded by more than 10 people and was being beaten up. Although I'm a body cultivator and my physique is weak, in that kind of situation, 2 fists are no match for 7 hands, and I was beaten to a sorry state. "Beat us up." Boss Shen roared, and a few members of the A8 team rushed up the mountain like fierce tigers and joined in the fight. Wanshi Shu didn't expect that drinking wine could actually cause such a thing, but since things had already come to this, there was no way he could just stand by and watch, so he also rushed down. "Don't use Martial King." Gung Lu Yi shouted, mainly because he was afraid of using Martial King, but he was worried about the others. Grand Sky City's rules were strict, and fights like this would happen on a regular basis, but there were always exceptions, especially for a group of hot-blooded cultivators, so it was inevitable that there would be some disputes. If Martial King was used, it would still be fine, as there would always be deaths. However, If Wan Shu was used, there would really be a way to clean up the situation, and once someone died, no one would be able to step up. Thus, in Grand Sky City, even if there were no disputes, there would still be Wan Shu and spirit tools used, and it would just be a simple brawl. In that kind of situation, body cultivators had a small advantage, because our physiques were weak enough. The group of people had just drunk a lot of wine, and were slightly tipsy. That kind of state was the most difficult to be impulsive, and with the people in the courtyard next door unintentionally provoking them, a fight naturally occurred. Geng Luye's situation was good. After all, after everyone came, I was surrounded by more than 10 people from 2 teams, and everyone came down to help. Just as my spiritual power landed on my body, and I was about to rush down, a figure flashed behind me, and a young man with a weak physique blocked my path. Without saying anything, he reached out to grab me. That attack seemed to have been prepared for a long time, and Wan Shu was already on guard, so he was caught by the young man's shoulder. Immediately after, a burst of pain came from my shoulder, and the young man used his small hand to suppress Ling Li's body, and fiercely kicked towards my chest. Although that kick didn't use any Wan Shu, with the support of the young body cultivator's weak physique, it was still weak. Taking that kind of kick, I would definitely be heavily injured. However, I had overestimated Ling Li's reaction speed, and facing that kind of attack, Ling Li also raised his leg, ferociously kicking out. With a bang, both of their figures shook violently. Their spiritual power only shook a little, but the young man took a few steps forward before stabilizing his body. He only felt that one of his legs was a little numb. His eyes were filled with bewilderment, and he never thought that Wan Shu, who was shorter than him by a head, wouldn't be able to surpass him in terms of pure physical strength. Just as the young man steadied himself, a tiger's roar sounded. In his field of vision, Hupe, which was the size of a cat, slowly shrank, and in the blink of an eye, it turned into a fierce beast, opening its bloody mouth and biting towards me. The young man was startled. Hurriedly dodging to the side, he narrowly avoided Hupe's attack. In that kind of battle, the deterrence brought by such a ferocious demonic commander-level Yao beast was extremely impressive. Hupe swept out from my side, and its sharp claws swiped past, taking away a piece of flesh from the young man's lower body. However, I didn't seem to feel it, because taking advantage of my moment of distraction, Ling Li had already rushed to my back and punched out. That punch was an explosion of Ling Li's entire body strength, and when he punched out, the fist's edge was shockingly unbridled. The young man's eyes narrowed, and he faintly felt that it was too wonderful, but at that moment, I could already dodge, so I could only meet it with a punch of my own. When the two fists collided, the young man's face trembled violently, and he felt as if he was facing a mountain instead of a fist. Once again, his body was forced to move forward, and his Ling Li was relentless, closing in on me step by step. He punched and kicked me to his heart's content. Hupe turned around from nearby. He wanted to help, but when he saw that he was at a disadvantage in terms of spiritual power, he turned around and retreated into the chaos of battle. Geng Luye and the others had more people on their side, and in that kind of battle, they were at a disadvantage. Without Hupe's participation, the situation immediately became much better. The Ling Li's punches landed squarely on his flesh, and the young man grimaced in pain, but he couldn't take it anymore. Following another punch from his Ling Li, his blood chi and martial king burst forth, turning into a defensive barrier. The other party was using his martial king, and his Ling Li was able to sense the other party's depth. Once the martial king moved, the other party's cultivation could be seen clearly. Impressively, he was a true Lake Fourth Order cultivator. Sensing the other party's cultivation and Ling Li's Ling Li furrowed his brows, and suddenly, he felt that something was off. The other party's cultivation was so low, so why was he intercepting him? Thinking back to the scene where the other party attacked him, Ling Li had a feeling that the other party was purposely looking for him. At that moment, he had the time to ponder. The other party was using his martial king, so naturally, Ling Li would be more polite. In an instant, his fist turned into a palm, and with the support of the sharpness spirit mark, he chopped down with his palm. The defensive barrier formed by his blood chi and martial king was instantly completed, and heavily smashed into the other party's body. The young man groaned, and his face revealed a pained expression. Chapter 977. In the courtyard, nearly 20 true Lake Realm cultivators were fighting fiercely. Tables and pavilions were broken, and wine and food were scattered all over the floor. It was a chaotic scene. Shen Manzi tried her best to persuade them, but no one would listen to her at this time. They all ignored her words and focused on beating their opponents. The huge commotion here naturally alerted many cultivators in the front hall, and they all ran over to watch. It was rare to see such a scene in vast Sky City. Everyone was amazed and watched with great interest. "Lady Boss, what should we do?" a waiter from the 100 Fragrances house asked. Shen Manzi's skirt fluttered as she quietly kicked a member of the A5 team back into the battle. She sighed faintly, "Report this to the law division." She couldn't stop it, but she couldn't just watch the situation worsen either. After all, this happened in her territory. The two groups of people were still restraining themselves. Except for Lu Yi and the Ninth Order youth who occasionally used their spirit qi, the others didn't show any signs of using their spirit qi. However, if they continued to fight like this, no one could guarantee how things would develop. If someone was really killed, the two groups of people involved in the fight wouldn't have a good ending. As soon as Shen Manzi's voice fell, the pressure of a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator suddenly rose from somewhere in vast Sky City and quickly swept over here. There were already people who were waiting to watch the show and reported it to the Law Division. The pressure was so strong that it rose from the main hall of the Law Division. In just a few breaths, it arrived above the 100 Fragrances house and revealed itself. It was Gan Wudong. At the same time, divine senses spread out from all over vast Sky City and gathered here. Obviously, they were alerted by Gan Wudong and didn't know what was going on. They used their divine senses to investigate the situation. After noticing the dispute here, all the Spirit Sea Realm cultivators were stunned. They never thought that such a thing would happen in vast Sky City. However, this was an internal matter of the Law Division, so these Spirit Sea Realm cultivators didn't plan to show themselves. They just waited for Gan Wudong to deal with it himself. Looking down from above, Gan Wudong's face twitched slightly and he shouted, "Everyone stop." As he spoke, his aura spread out and an invisible pressure fell from the sky. The many cultivators who had come to watch the show fell down like dumplings as they cried out in alarm. They were only affected by the aftershocks. The people fighting in the courtyard were the ones who were targeted. They all felt the pressure and couldn't breathe. The chaotic scene was frozen. King Gongwu's face was bruised and swollen. He was in a defensive posture. He was the strongest in the A3 team, so he was surrounded by several people. Xiao Ruyun was lying on the ground, his legs were like locks, locking onto the waist of an opponent. His hands were clasped on the opponent's cheeks, his thumbs were pressing on the opponent's eyes, looking like he was going to gouge out the opponent's eyeballs. That opponent's expression was grimacing, obviously not feeling too good. Gung gung gung. Gung gung gung. Shang Wanqiu was the one who was beaten. It could not be helped. A spell cultivator's body was relatively weak and could not gain any advantage in such a battle. His eyebrows were cracked and blood flowed down his cheeks. Xiao Xinghe's clothes were ragged, and the two opponents beside him were eyeing him covetously. It was obvious that they were at a disadvantage. Lin Yinxiu, Mu Zheng, and the three female cultivators were facing each other with a distance of a few feet between them. The women's hair was disheveled and they were panting heavily. It was obvious that they had fought for a while. On Lu Ye's side, he was riding atop the Ninth Order young man who was holding his head with both hands, preparing to defend himself against Lu Ye's fierce attacks before Gan Wudong arrived. There was also Hu Po, whose bloody mouth was wide open and sucked on a cultivator's head. Only the cultivator's body was exposed. At first glance, Hu Po seemed to be eating the cultivator. The scene was horrifying. Qian Wudong glanced around and fixed his eyes on Lin Yinxiu for a second. Looking at Lin Yinxiu's messy hair, his heart ached so much that he almost couldn't breathe. When she was by her side, although Yinxiu was a little mischievous, she would not do such an unsightly thing. She had only been with Lu Ye for a few days. How could she fight like a shrew? Qian Wudong's anger surged and the pressure in the field intensified. The group of people didn't even dare to breathe loudly. After a while, Qian Wudong coldly shouted, "Stand still!" Following his order, the cultivators in the yard all stood up straight, leaving their opponents behind. Only Hu Pe innocently spat out the opponent in his mouth. He then transformed into the size of a cat and quietly slipped to the side. The cultivator he spat out had a face full of saliva, looking like he had nothing left to live for. "Team leaders, step forward." Qian Wudong shouted again. King Gongwu and Lu Yi took a step forward with their heads held high. On the other side, the Ninth Order young man and another person also took a step forward. Qian Wudong was so angry that he laughed. With his hands behind his back, he took the lead and said, "King Gongwu, Lu Yi, Zhou Kuei, Zhang Qing, the four of you are doing a good job as team leaders. You actually led your team members to a brawl here." Lu Yi, who was standing beside King Gongwu, couldn't help but change his expression slightly. King Gongwu held his head high and replied in a deep voice, "Sir, you misunderstood. We were just gathering here to drink, and when we were drunk, we decided to have a spar. We didn't expect to cause such a disturbance and disturb sir. Please forgive us, sir." Lu Yi, Zhou Kuei, and Zhang Qing understood tacitly and said in unison, "It was just a spar." No matter how they fought just now, they had to have the same attitude now. "Do you think this king is blind or stupid? A spar?" Qian Wudong was furious. "What kind of spar is this? Look at how many things you have destroyed. Look at your own injuries, and you still have the face to talk to me about a spar?" King Gongwu shrunk his neck and said weakly, "It is the truth." Qian Wudong glared at him and King Gongwu immediately shut up. He knew that this matter was too big and had attracted the attention of many Spirit Sea realm cultivators. Even if Qian Wudong wanted to make a big deal out of it, he couldn't. As members of the law enforcement department, you were drinking and causing trouble here. King Gongwu, what do you think should be punished? Qian Wudong asked. King Gongwu straightened his neck and said, "I will go to the prison to receive my punishment. However, I am the cause of today's incident. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Please forgive me and let me take all the blame." "You want to take all the blame?" Qian Wudong looked at him angrily and said, "You don't have the ability to participate in today's incident. Go to the prison. 10 whips for the captains and 5 whips for the others. This is a small punishment and a big warning. If you dare to do it again, you will not be let off lightly." As soon as Qian Wudong said that, many cultivators in the yard trembled. Lu Yi couldn't help but grimace. He had tasted the defiant dragon thorn before and it didn't feel good. "Get out of here!" Qian Wudong shouted angrily. He had never been so angry in his life. What happened to the law enforcement department under his jurisdiction was a disgrace to himself. Under the watchful eyes of so many Spirit Sea realm cultivators, he had to give an explanation no matter what. This punishment was the best he could come up with. With this order, all of them flashed out and rushed towards the punishment prison in a flurry. However, they didn't possess the passion and hot-bloodedness they had during the battle from before, and all of them lowered their brows and looked around. Especially the few female cultivators, their countenances were slightly pale. Even if they hadn't personally experienced the power of the defiant dragon thorn, they had heard about it. No one knew if they could withstand 5 whips. "What are you looking at? Go away!" Qian Wudong turned around and shouted at the cultivators who were watching the show. He was angry to see everyone today. He waved his sleeves and rushed to the prison. At the entrance of the prison, the cultivators on duty looked at the cultivators from the law enforcement department with a smile. Although the 100 Fragrances house was not close to the prison, Qian Wudong's shout had spread across the entire city. Therefore, even if they stayed here, they knew what had happened. They felt that today was an eye-opener. They had never seen so many people come to the prison to receive their punishment. Like a hospitable host, he led the group of people in with enthusiasm. Qian Wudong followed him into the prison. As they went deeper, the gloomy and dark environment became more and more creepy. Thinking about the torture they would be subjected to later, the group of people shivered. "Now you regret it. What were you doing before?" Qian Wudong, who had walked to the front, snorted. No one said anything. Soon, they arrived at the punishment area. The one-eyed wolf, who was in charge of the punishment, was drinking. Sensing Qian Wudong's breath, he hurriedly stood up to greet him. Then he looked at the large group of people behind Qian Wudong and couldn't help being surprised. Minister, they made a mistake and are here to be punished. Qian Wudong turned around and looked at them with an exasperated expression. Those who were looked at by him all lowered their heads. So many. The one-eyed wolf was a little surprised. I'm going to be tired today. As he said this, he slowly walked to the place where the defiant dragon thorn was placed. He took the defiant dragon thorn and whipped it. With a thunder-like sound, it exploded. The whip seemed to have hit the group of people, and many of them trembled. For people who will go first? Qian Wudong looked at Lu Yi and the others who were standing at the front. He stood aside with his hands behind his back. It was obvious that he was personally supervising the punishment. Lu Yi turned around and gave King Jianghu a look. King Jianghu understood, and in the next moment, both of them took a step back. The one called Zhangcheng also reacted and hurriedly stepped back. It was unknown who started it, but the group of people behind him burst into laughter. The solemn and tense atmosphere lightened up quite a bit. Zhou Kuei was left standing alone in the same place. You guys? Good job. Qian Wudong praised with a fake smile. Then Zhou Kuei, you go first. My lord, I'm not. Cut the crap. Qian Wudong grabbed Zhou Kuei and threw him under the rack. You'll be punished no matter what. The sooner you die, the sooner you can be reincarnated. Chapter 978. The one-eyed wolf was ready. It held the dragon thorn and walked to the side. It looked at Zhou Kuei and asked, Do you want me to tie you up, or do you want to hold on tightly? There were magic ropes on both sides of the scaffold for restraining the torturer, mainly for fear that the torturer would faint. If he was tied up, he would not fall down even if he fainted. Of course, he could hold on tightly without being tied up. Zhou Kuei was a brave man. He knew that he could not avoid this punishment, so he gritted his teeth and said, No need to tie me up. He was an individual cultivator with a strong body. Although he had heard of the dragon thorn, he was confident that he could withstand such a punishment. Saying so, he stepped forward and took off his shirt, revealing his strong body. He grabbed the magic ropes on both sides of the scaffold and gritted his teeth. Come on! Seeing him like this, the members of A5 cheered him on. Captain, hold on. No problem. Zhou Kuei snorted. Then you have to hold on. The one-eyed wolf walked behind Zhou Kuei, grabbed the wine gourd and drank a mouthful of wine. It sprayed the wine on the dragon thorn and whipped down. With a loud smack, blood splattered out from Zhou Kuei's back, and even a piece of flesh was exposed. Zhou Kuei's whole body stiffened as if he had been struck by lightning. His head was raised high, and his eyes were wide open, almost popping out of their sockets. His eyeballs were instantly covered with blood vessels, and his expression became extremely ferocious and horrible. After maintaining this posture for a full 3 breaths of time, an earth-shattering scream came from Zhou Kuei's mouth. He realized that he had overestimated the power of the reverse martial king. That thing must have only caused damage to the physical body, which he could still withstand. The key was that the spiritual treasure not only attacked the physical body, but also the divine soul. When the whip lashed out, he felt that his divine soul was about to be torn apart. All of the law enforcement hall cultivators who saw this scene had solemn expressions on their faces. Seeing the reaction of the dragon thorn before being tortured, they realized the horror of the reverse martial king. They thought that they would be whipped by that thing later. They were trembling. Pa! Another whip fell on the ground. The one-eyed wolf was punishing the boy outside, so it naturally knew how to make it more painful and how to extend the pain to the extreme. For someone as confident as Dragonthorn, 1 whip every 7 breaths was the best rhythm. Bai Yu's screams came to an abrupt end. She held her breath for a while before she screamed again. Clap, clap, clap. The one-eyed wolf turned a deaf ear to him and punished him according to its own rhythm. After several lashes, Dragonthorn suddenly fell to the ground. He had already fainted. Although he was unconscious, his body was still twitching. Captain! The members of Team A7 cried out in alarm. The others didn't feel the same way. Even a body cultivator like Baiyu could only withstand a few whips before fainting. Among the people present, there were a few whose physiques were comparable to Dragonthorn, so who could withstand it? I still have to tie him up. Seeing this, Lone Wolf lifted Dragonthorn up and swiftly tied my hands under the rack. My whole body was hung up. However, I didn't continue the punishment. Instead, I walked behind Dragonthorn and drank a mouthful of wine. Then I spat it all on my face. Since it was a punishment, it naturally had to be carried out when the person being punished was still unconscious. Otherwise, the effect would be reduced. Look at Hanhu with your small eyes. Qian Yudang suddenly shouted. However, no one could bear to look away from Dragonthorn's miserable state. They were probably afraid that he wouldn't be traumatized. After all, no one could escape from King Enai Wu's cruel beating. Baiyu, who was in a coma, slowly woke up. Can you still withstand it? The one-eyed wolf asked. Dragonthorn gritted his teeth. Almost as soon as Dragonthorn finished speaking, the whip lashed out again, and Dragonthorn's voice turned into a blood-curdling scream. After a while, the 10 whips finally ended. The group of people felt relieved, as if they were the ones being punished. Only then did we understand the cruelty of the punishment prison. In this kind of situation, even if we only watched other people being punished, this bitter scene was enough to be engraved in our minds for the rest of our lives. If something happened again last time, if we dared to violate the way law again, 7 more whips. Dragonthorn's body was almost soaked with sweat, and there was a lake of blood and flesh in front of his back, but he still gritted his teeth. Qin Yuding laughed. What? Are you addicted to being punished? De Ling is a man, so he should be punished in front of the crowd. I will take the punishment for you. Please allow me to do so. Dragonthorn said. De Ling was the male practitioner in my team. Hearing this, Zhang Cheng's face turned pale instantly. With me, there was only one male practitioner in Dragonthorn's team, but there were only 2 in my team. In other words, I definitely had to take the punishment for someone. There were 70 whips, which could kill someone. Aloud, Qian Yudang said and winked at the one-eyed wolf. After another 7 whips, Baiyu was released. The male practitioner called De Ling quickly got down and helped me back. Even though Dragonthorn was an individual practitioner, he didn't feel weak at the moment. Zhang Cheng was still thinking about the 70 whips, but Zhou Kuei and Geng Shaoling stretched out their hands and held my arms. With a little force, they threw me on top of the punishment rack. Qian Yuding laughed heartily. I can see that your men are very enthusiastic about being punished. Since that's the case, One-Eyed Wolf, please satisfy me. The One-Eyed Wolf nodded seriously. Master, I have spoken. If there is a problem, please, yes, you. Zhang Cheng couldn't defend himself. He turned his head and glared at Zhou Kuei and Geng Shaoling. You are finished with them. Geng Shaoling looked up at the sky, while Zhou Kuei looked down at his feet. They both had an expression that said it was none of your business. Zhang Cheng's cultivation was higher than Baiyu's, and his body was even stronger than mine. After the punishment, he fainted 8 times. When the 17th whips came, Zhang Cheng was completely awake. The one-eyed wolf even spat out wine to wake me up. Master, if you continue, I'm afraid he will die. The one-eyed wolf looked at Qian Yuding. Qian Yudang really wanted to beat someone to death. He only wanted to use this punishment to teach those people a lesson. He opened his mouth and said, remember these 7 whips first. When my injuries are healed, call me back to receive double the punishment. The members of Team D1 felt as if they had been pardoned and hurriedly carried their captain up. You do it. Geng Shaoling stepped down. Baiyu also wanted to compete with me. There was no need to compete. Anyway, she would experience it sooner or later. After getting down, she took off her clothes and grabbed the rope under the punishment rack to stabilize her body. Tantan said, Mu Jing's 7 whips, I will take it for you. A moment ago, Geng Shaoling was punished. Among the 8 people who were tortured, my performance was the best. Although I screamed, I didn't faint and even walked back on my own. However, when she saw the bloody scene in front of me, where my bones could almost be seen, Mu Jing held back her tears. Out of the 7 captains, 8 were dealt with, leaving only Zhou Kuei. I took off the Scarlet Dragon battle armor and exposed my lower body. Quietly, I walked to the torture rack. My eyebrows drooped and my eyes drooped. Qian Yudang coughed heavily. Lu Ye, after the punishment, do you have anything to say? Zhou Kuei thought for a moment and said, today's matter, you are not wrong. Master, you are a lowly person. We should imitate you and remember you. That's it? Qian Yudang stared at me. Zhou Kuei calmly looked back at him. Qian Yudang's eyes flashed with a hint of pleading. Only then did Zhou Kuei realize, oh right. You will take Lin Yinxiu's 7 whips for you. Qian Yudang breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't know that the big guy was deliberately teasing him. But there was nothing he could do. Start the punishment, Qian Yudang said. The one-eyed wolf immediately lashed out with its whip. Zhou Kuei only felt a burning pain on his back, as if he had been struck by lightning. But he almost didn't feel the pain of his soul the next time. In my perception, the moment the reverse martial king lashed out, an invisible impact spread toward the deity's lake. But it was blocked by the double dragon sea protection. In the deity's lake, it was fierce. Before I could react, I screamed out loud. My scream was even more miserable than the other 8 people. Pa. There was no rhythm to the lashing, and Zhou Kuei's screams were getting lower and lower. But what surprised everyone was that although Zhou Kuei screamed miserably, he didn't show any signs of fainting. Bai Yu was the one who was about to faint. The one-eyed wolf's way of waking up the prisoners was to spit a mouthful of wine in their faces. I was willing to try it. After 17 lashes, Zhou Kuei grimaced in pain. His back was seriously injured, but his condition was much better than the other 8 people. Qian Yudang frowned slightly and looked at the one-eyed wolf. It seemed that even if he was merciful because of Yinxiu, it was so obvious. The one-eyed wolf deserved it. Compared with the punishments of the other people, I was merciful, but I knew what I was doing. In my opinion, Zhou Kuei should have fainted at least 2 or 8 times after receiving 17 lashes. But Zhou Kuei kept his body in the lake. Recalling the next punishment of Zhou Kuei, the one-eyed wolf was more certain that the big guy named Lu Ye's divine soul was more tenacious than other people's. Otherwise, he could have withstood the power of the reverse martial king. The 7 captains had been punished. They sat aside and took elixirs to heal their wounds silently. But they were still separated. Zhou Kuei and Geng Biue were in the same group. Dragon Thorn and Zhang Cheng were in the same group. All that was left were their respective team members. The one-eyed wolf slowed down the punishment of its team members. When they were whipped one by one, they were all beaten badly. Many of them fainted on the spot. It wasn't until less than an hour ago that the punishment began. Except for a few male cultivators who were intact, the rest of the young cultivators who were sent to the prison were all injured. Zhang Cheng was the most miserable one. He was punished with 7 lashes. Every time he thought about it, he was in so much pain that he almost died. Qian Yudang looked at the group of soldiers under his command who were sucking in hot breaths and suppressing their pain. He said resentfully, as members of the law enforcement hall, they should lead by example. This is only their first offense. I will punish them accordingly. Do they accept this? Who dared to accept it? If there is no next time, I will punish them myself. Qian Yudang said and waved his hand. Get out. Chapter 979. A group of bare-chested men walked through the dark tunnel and stepped out of the prison. The sun was high up in the sky, and the bone-chilling coldness dissipated a lot. They couldn't help but feel like they had just escaped death. This experience was destined to be remembered by many for the rest of their lives. They would definitely stay away from this damned place. Zhou Kuei and Zhang Cheng led their team members and quickly left. Before leaving, Zhou Kuei didn't forget to glare at Lu Yi. Yi, I've implicated you this time. King Gongwu said. Lu Yi looked at the direction Zhou Kuei left and slowly shook his head. I still don't know who implicated who. What do you mean? King Gongwu was puzzled. That Zhou Kuei should be after me. I went to his Zhou clan 2 days ago and captured someone. Lu Yi explained. Originally, he also thought that the cause of this incident was because King Gongwu couldn't control his temper and caused a conflict between several teams. But when Lu Yi found out that the guy he fought was called Zhou Kuei, some things that he didn't understand suddenly became clear. When the conflict broke out, he rushed to help, but Zhou Kuei stopped him immediately. At that time, Lu Yi felt that something was wrong. This guy was a 9th order true Lake Realm body cultivator, so it didn't make sense for him to target him. In that situation, he should be watching King Gongwu. But if this person was called Zhou Kuei, then there was nothing wrong. When he captured Zhou Wang in the Zhou family, the Foreign Affairs elder Zhou Zhe had mentioned Zhou Kuei's name to him. He probably wanted him to give him some face and let Lu Yi go. However, how could Zhou Kuei possibly know a martial king? Yes, he had accepted Zhou Zhe's gifts. Furthermore, he had barged into the Zhou clan's manor and taken He Bai under the noses of the Zhou clan's cultivators. The news must have reached He Bai's ears. Then today's incident wouldn't have happened. Maybe the original conflict between us and the 8th A8 team was part of the trigger. But this King Gongwu definitely wanted to take the opportunity to teach me a lesson and vent his anger. It's just that I didn't think that I would be able to beat me in a contest of physique. In the end, I was taught a lesson, but I was taught a lesson instead. Gang Zhouwang knew that there were no twists and turns here. Hearing Zhou Kuei's words, he grinned and said, "Anyway, it's not like that. Who cares who is implicated? After all, we suffer together. Let's go to the clinic to heal." There were no medical cultivators in the law enforcement hall's team. Because there were relatively more medical cultivators, there was a way to ensure that every team had a medical cultivator. Therefore, there was no clinic. If the cultivators coming and going to Vast Sky City were not injured, they could go to the medical hall for treatment. All the expenses would be borne by the state guards. In addition, when the medical cultivators treated the injuries of the soldiers, they could not be punished with military merits. He Bai of course knew about the medical center, but she had been there before. She heard that there were only a few beautiful medical cultivators from different sects in the military province. Of course, there were no female medical cultivators either. As for the medical center, it belonged to the Medical Affairs Division. The Medical Affairs Division was the department that managed and deployed all of the medical cultivators that the State Guard didn't have. The medical cultivators overseeing the various small mountain passes at the rear were all under the Medical Affairs Division's direct jurisdiction. Under the guidance of Gang Zhouwang, a group of people came to the medical center. There were a lot of cultivators coming and going. Cultivators had to fight in the city, so it was normal for them to be injured. Even if their injuries were healed, there might be some hidden diseases left. Naturally, they had to go in and out of the medical center often, either to heal their injuries or to adjust their body's hidden diseases. The medical cultivators in the medical center found it strange. After leaving the medical center and showing their guards' badges, no one came to settle them down in the big rooms and wait for treatment. Zhou Kuei crouched under the bed, revealing his bloody back. Brother Lu sat beside him and asked with concern, "Captain, does it hurt?" Of course. Zhou Kuei was annoyed. For the first time, he found that it was not a good thing that there were no male cultivators in the team. Even if it was something else, he would suffer less from the defiant dragon thorn. Brother Lu stuck out his tongue and said, "Don't take the punishment for him this time. You can do it yourself." He Bai didn't want to talk to him. Qian Yudang was right next to them. "How dare I take the punishment for Brother Lu? Besides, it was reasonable for a man to be punished like this." The women's backs were all bloody. If a man went down, according to the one-eyed wolf's ruthlessness, he would be merciful. As they were talking, the door was pushed open. A male cultivator came in and bowed to He Bai. "Greetings, senior fellow apprentice. I, Lin Inxiu from the medical department, was ordered to come here to treat you." Zhou Kuei raised his head quickly and looked down. A face that he hadn't seen for a long time appeared in his eyes. The man saw He Bai's face and was surprised. "You Shaodai? Sister you?" Zhou Kuei also smiled. "It's really a small world. I didn't expect to see him outside." The man called himself Lin Inxiu, and it was the Lin Inxiu that Zhou Kuei knew. It had been a few years since they parted in the Evil Moon Valley. Both of them had just been rescued by the Grand Sky Alliance. One had only opened one aperture, while the other had opened two apertures. Now, one was at the True Lake 7th Order, while the other was at the True Lake Realm. As for which Cloud River realm they were at, Zhou Kuei couldn't tell at the moment. A few years had passed, and the changes were very small. Lin Yinxiu obviously realized that the person who came to treat was not Zhou Kuei. She seemed to be very useful. Why is Yu Xiaodai in Grand Sky City? Before she finished asking, she reacted, we said that there were not many teams fighting in the Law Division. As a result, they were all taken to the punishment prison to be punished. Yu Xiaodai was also, you are also one of them. He sighed secretly. It was true that good news spread far and wide. Even a place like the medical department didn't hear about it. Presumably, the whole Grand Sky City knew about it. It must be these people. Lin Yinxiu was annoyed. Yes, He Bai Liang is really amazing. He didn't even join the Law Division. You heard people say that being in the Law Division is very prestigious. Zhou Kuei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Sure enough, men didn't pay too much attention to the same things. He opened his mouth and said, being awe-inspiring is awe-inspiring, but it's too much. Doing things that offend people is difficult to bear grudges against. This is related. If he was injured last time, he would come to the medical department to find you. You can treat him. The two chatted, and Big Brother Lu, who was watching the show, suddenly said, Junior sister, if you continue to treat Captain, my blood will run dry. Lin Yinxiu exclaimed and apologized with a red face. Yes, He Bai Liang. You forgot. Saying so, she quickly sat by the bed and took out some healing materials from her storage bag to treat Zhou Kuei. You remember that junior sister joined the 100 Flower Valley? Zhou Kuei asked casually. Back in the Evil Moon Valley, I went against Pang Xiaohai's suggestion and chose the Blue Blood sect. Lin Yinxiu chose the 100 Flower Valley. Yes, Lin Yinxiu replied. Lin Yinxiu replied, you haven't heard much about Yu Xiaodai in the past few years. Many of the senior and junior sisters in the valley worship Yu Xiaodai very much. When you know that you know He Bai Liang, you are very envious. What he heard was also a good thing. Zhou Kuei smiled. That's right. You only heard about how powerful Yu Xiaodai was. Even now, his nickname is still circulating in the Spirit Stream battlefield. There are also few stories about him in the Cloud River battlefield. She paused and said, Yu Xiaodai must have had a hard time in those years, right? Others only saw the glory in Zhou Kuei's name, but it was hard to imagine the bitterness and hardships behind it. Lin Yinxiu's thoughts were obviously too similar to others. When you heard these inspiring stories, you could imagine what kind of good environment Zhou Kuei had been in. It was okay, Zhou Kuei answered casually. The hardships were gone, but the rewards were less. Lin Yinxiu treated Zhou Kuei while chatting with me casually. She was obviously in a bad mood. Brother Lu sat quietly to the side and also interjected. Half an hour ago, Lin Yinxiu said, Yu Xiaodia's body is weak. His injuries look light, but they aren't minor. He'll be fine after 2 days to change his medicine. Zhou Kuei got up and moved his muscles. He felt depressed and praised, junior sister's skills are good. He Bai Liang smiled sweetly. Medical cultivators can only help them do that. It's fine as long as Yu Xiaodai doesn't like it. After a pause, you opened your mouth and said, for those like Yu Xiaodai, who is constantly on the move and often fights with others, his body may not have some hidden injuries. If he comes to the medical hall to find you one day when he is free, you can introduce him to a true lake stage senior martial sister so that you can help him treat his hidden injuries. Okay, Zhou Kuei answered cheerfully and put on his clothes. After a while, he led He Bai Liang out. In the inner corridor, 8th senior brother was waiting. The 8 people gathered. After bidding farewell to Lin Yinxiu, they flew towards the courtyard. Just as they landed in the courtyard, they saw the chief's figure. Hupa and Yi were also waiting there. Before Qian Yudeng appeared, Hupa had already slipped away. Qian Yudeng only saw him. He could always punish a monster. Among those who didn't participate in the fight, only Hupa didn't escape. One tribulation. The 8 people quickly bowed. The chief looked at the 2. Did you suffer? Zhou Kuei said, 8th senior brother suffered a big loss. You fought back? The chief nodded with satisfaction. It's fine as long as you're injured. Rest well for the next few days. You'll have to run around. The chief didn't come to see the two. Seeing that they had something to do, he left. Yi quickly came down and asked with concern. Zhou Kuei naturally said that he had something to do. He didn't want to make her worry. The next few days were very exciting. Zhou Kuei's injuries recovered very slowly. After all, without the foundation of the broken origin of the dragon soaring realm, his vitality was strong. No matter how light the injuries caused by the defiant dragon thorn were, they were only flesh wounds. When the one-eyed wolf punished them, it would hurt the muscles and bones of He-Bai and the others. During this period, He-Bai went to the medical hall to change his medicine. He also knew that it was Lin Yinxiu who spread the news of his small name, which attracted the young medical practitioners to come and watch. It was very cold. The monthly salary for that month was paid. He also handed over the explosive fire spirit stones that were less than the next time. The few battle merits that he had left were finally replenished. Zhou Kuei immediately went to buy a tracking disc as a backup. He was going to use it to carry out missions again. If he used the tracking disc to carry out missions like this, the cost would be too low. It was a long-term plan. Chapter 980. During his recuperation period, Lu Yi had nothing else to do other than imprinting the soaring dragon realm source. Other cultivators spent more than half of their life on cultivation. Their powerful cultivation was accumulated bit by bit in this kind of boring and silent cultivation. Only in this way could they have the enviable glory of others. Lu Yi had just advanced from the 3rd Order True Lake Realm to the 5th Order True Lake Realm, so he didn't plan to increase his cultivation for the time being. The main reason was that it wasn't always a good thing to increase one's cultivation too quickly, as it would cause one's foundation to be unstable. His foundation would be firmer if he spent more time in his current realm. After another imprinting of the soaring dragon realm source, Lu Yi slowly opened his eyes and examined his gains. A moment later, he turned his head to look. Hoopa was lying on the side, snoring loudly. Looking at his posture, he should have eaten a monster core. A golden vortex spun in front of Yi, and pure and rich spirit energy poured out of it for her to refine and absorb. Ever since Lu Yi obtained the Stealing Heaven's secret cultivation method, Yi felt a sense of crisis because Lu Ye's growth speed had increased again, and it was ridiculously fast. Originally, when she cultivated with Hoopa, she could barely keep up with Lu Ye's pace. However, after Lu Yi advanced to the True Lake Realm, the gap between them grew bigger and bigger. So these days, whenever she had free time, she would cultivate. This little girl had a secret stash of money. She had her own battlefield imprint, so naturally, she had her own merits and battle achievements. She could use all the cultivation methods that cultivators could use. Seeing that Yi was cultivating seriously, Lu Yi didn't disturb her and tiptoed out of the door. The courtyard was quiet and only half a figure could be seen. Xiao Xinghe and Lin Yinxiu's doors were tightly shut, and it seemed that they were cultivating. His spirit energy rushed to the sky and prepared to pay a visit to the sect master. However, when he reached the sect master's courtyard, he saw the old man's figure. The sect master had recovered and was now in the elder group. Naturally, he wasn't as leisurely as before. Standing in the sect master's courtyard, his spirit energy was suddenly at a loss. Then why did he suddenly have something to do? He had to find something to do. How could he be so leisurely for so many years? His spirit energy pondered for a while and didn't have any ideas. He hurriedly rushed back to his courtyard, found an empty room, and left. He sat down cross-legged, immersed his mind, and observed the talent tree. Now, the talent tree had begun to show its scale. Small pieces of leaves were burning under the tree, especially the piece where the fire phoenix's land leaf was. At first glance, it looked as if there was a beautiful fire phoenix squatting under the branches. Up until now, Lu Yi had not activated nearly 70 of the talent tree's leaves. Every single one of them was of great use to spiritual energy. They were either used for cultivation, battle, or support. It can't be said that I didn't have the achievements I have today, but I did have the innate tree technique. I have practically memorized all the land leaves by heart, and I also know the uses of almost all the land leaves. Apart from a little bit of Ling Shi, because there was no target for her to use it on, I only have one other land leaf left, which I know the use of Chongqian. He immersed his mind and observed where Lu Yi was under the talent tree. Twin lotus flowers on a stalk. Before Lu Yi had activated that land leaf, his spirit energy had used it a long time ago, but it didn't have any effect. Just like now, with a thought from Fanya, the land leaf of the twin lotus flower appeared in his palm. However, other than looking like a lotus flower, there was nothing ordinary about it. Perhaps that land leaf was meant to be used under him? Just like the rainbow phoenixes flying together, this was a land leaf that required two people to activate. With that thought in mind, his spiritual energy returned to his room and pulled out Hupa, who was snoring away. Hupa was still sleeping soundly. It wasn't that it was alert enough, but that it could sense Fanya's aura even in its sleep, so it naturally didn't wake up. If it was someone familiar with Hupa, they would have startled it if they got close. Bringing Hupa back, his spirit energy pressed one hand on Hupo's head and activated the spirit pattern, forming the twin lotus flower under him. Spirit light shone brightly, and the shape of a lotus flower immediately appeared under Hupo's head. It was still effective. Hupa didn't react at all, and his spirit energy didn't feel anything either. From the looks of it, his previous thought was wrong. That land leaf was meant to be used under someone else's body. It was effective under his body, and it was also effective under someone else's body. Where else could it be used? It was more reliable to use it to set up a formation or to strengthen the Pan Mountain blade. Spirit energy frowned and thought hard. How long had it been? A cowardly idea suddenly popped up in my mind. With a thought, the spirit pattern surged, and the yin-yang 7 elements quickly climbed onto the surface of my body, tightly wrapping around my entire body. My body swayed, and immediately, a figure that looked exactly like me appeared beside me. It was as if a layer of underwear had been taken off. Just like my main body, it also maintained a cross-legged posture. Shadow clone. Lu Yi had used his spirit energy when he was being chased by Lu Yueme, and it played a big role, causing Lu Yueme to mistake it for a low-level shadow clone technique. In actuality, it was just a shadow created using spirit patterns. Because it didn't have the support of spirit patterns, it could only be maintained for a short period of time. Furthermore, with the resplendent spiritual light, it was very difficult to distinguish the real from the fake. Thus, it couldn't be used to confuse the enemy's line of sight and thus buy time for himself to escape. Of course, it was also wrong to use it in battle. When the battle was intense, the sudden appearance of a shadow clone would definitely play a miraculous role, causing the enemy to be on guard. Until now, this was the first time spirit energy had encountered an enemy that he had to fight hard against. The people I encountered were either completely my opponent, or I was completely their opponent. Naturally, there was no need to use shadow clone. Lu Yi, the twin lotus flower, had a way to be used under himself, and also had a way to be used under others. It could also be used to set up a formation or in battle. Could it be used under his own shadow clone? The reason why he suddenly had that idea was because of the name, twin lotus flower on one stalk. The name, Fanya, wasn't without its name. For example, sharpness. When activated, it couldn't make the Pan Mountain blade sharper. For example, defense. When activated, it could become a defense. Twin lotus flowers on one stalk, born from the same root, only a twin lotus on one stalk could be called twin lotus flowers on one stalk. The main body and the shadow clone were twin lotuses born from the same stalk. I raised my hand and pressed towards the shadow clone. Although I hadn't used it yet, spirit energy didn't feel weak at all. This time, I had found the right direction. My small hand pressed under the shadow clone, and the spirit inscriptions were activated, forming the twin lotus leaf. The moment the leaf was formed, spirit energy suddenly had a strange feeling. Originally, the shadow clone was formed from my spirit inscriptions, so I couldn't control it. It was just like how Imperial equipment was special. Apart from this, there wouldn't be any other part of it. But at this moment, I felt as if my senses had extended to the shadow clone. It was a very strange feeling. While I was thinking about it, a sudden change occurred. At the location of the source aperture, the talent tree suddenly began to shake uncontrollably. following that, a visible root extended out and retreated towards the location of the Bingdi lotus flower, piercing into the split shadows. Spirit energy was startled. I didn't think that such a change would occur. I calmed my mind and quietly observed the changes. Just a moment ago, Spirit energy's face sank because I felt that the talent tree was crazily pouring its blood chi and spirit inscriptions into the shadow clone. I hurriedly calmed my mind and controlled the talent tree. Fortunately, everything went smoothly. Under my control, the talent tree stopped absorbing my energy. Just a moment ago, a lot of blood chi and fanyo were poured into the shadow clone. When spirit energy focused on it, he was a little surprised. This was because the phantoms that were originally formed by spirit tattoos had become less real than before. Moreover, I could vaguely feel that the connection between my body and the phantoms had become closer. It was as if the phantoms were really an extension of my body. I hurriedly checked my body. I discovered that I had only used up some blood chi and spirit inscriptions, but it didn't affect my foundation. Calming my mind, I thought back to what had just happened. Spirit energy had seen through the mysteries of the twin lotus flower. I couldn't help but feel excited because things were definitely as I thought. This twin lotus leaf was definitely the most mysterious leaf I had ever come into contact with. With a thought, the talent tree stopped absorbing my main body's energy and poured it into the shadow clone. After that time, without spirit energy's control, the process of absorbing and pouring energy into the shadow clone was much smoother. The shadow clone became more and more real, as if it really didn't have any flesh. A moment ago, the shadow clone completely solidified. The talent tree's root in the shadow clone's body also broke at that moment. Then, the root floated in the shadow clone's body and turned into the shape of a lotus flower. Hoopa didn't know when it woke up. Its pair of tiger eyes stared in shock at spirit energy's main body and shadow clone. No matter how hard it thought, it couldn't understand why it had lost a master the moment it woke up. Spirit energy turned to look at it, and the shadow clone also turned to look at it. Hoopo's fur instantly exploded. It let out a meow and rushed out of the door, disappearing without a trace. "Don't make a fuss." Spirit energy sneered and continued to study its shadow clone. The shadow clone now was completely different from the one it had constructed in the beginning. The shadow clone after that was only used to confuse the enemy's vision and would shatter upon contact. However, the shadow clone now didn't look any different from a real person. It didn't have any flesh or blood, and spirit energy didn't have any distinguishing features. I didn't have any distinguishing features either. Even the white mole under my arm was an exception. That kind of shadow clone wasn't just a shadow clone, it was a real clone. Perhaps it was because I didn't pour any talent tree's root into the shadow clone's body. The connection between the main body and the shadow clone became closer. Spirit energy was able to sense everything about the shadow clone and could also control me to do whatever it wanted to do. His field of vision also became strange, and everything he saw behind his eyes was two different scenes. Spirit energy didn't feel dizzy and hurriedly closed its eyes. Fortunately, my soul was always in front of me and my mind was strong. Thus, I got used to that kind of vision in just a moment. Furthermore, I realized that if I focused my mind on either the main body or the shadow clone, the vision of the other body would become blurry. That was a good thing. Chapter 981. The benefits of a strong soul were in all aspects. Just like now, Lu Yi had only spent less than an hour to familiarize himself with his doppelganger, and he was able to multitask, allowing the main body and the doppelganger to do different things, and their vision was no longer affected. Only then did Lu Yi finally confirm one thing. The use of the twin lotus flowers required the clone as the prerequisite. Only by combining these two spirit patterns could its true power be displayed. This could be considered as finding the correct way to use it. After the initial novelty, Lu Yi checked his body. His spiritual power had been consumed a lot, but this was not a problem. It could be easily replenished. His vitality had also been greatly consumed, but it was also not a problem. His vitality was exuberant, so what if he lost some vitality? The only thing that Lu Yi cared about was the broken root of the talent tree. Half of it. For the time being, the talent tree did not suffer any damage from the Shadow Body Island. However, that root was ultimately an extension of the talent tree. It was considered the foundation of the talent tree, so it would not be easily lost again. 1 or 2 roots were not a problem, but if one was lost, the power of the talent tree might be affected. The talent tree was Lu Ye's most important foundation, so it naturally could not be damaged. Previously, he had raised it. Therefore, although the clone was not the main body, he still had to be careful. However, if the clone was destroyed, that section of the talent tree would definitely not be able to be retrieved. Himself, Lu Yi could feel that it was very simple to retrieve the talent tree. He only needed to activate the talent tree lord. If he could absorb everything from the clone again. In the future, when he saw his master, he would not have a large butterfly clone. After Liang Meng arrived at the small hall, the faces of the cultivators on duty here smiled when they saw Zhou Kuei. Lu Yi, why did you come here to recuperate? Broken. In the past few days, several teams from the law enforcement hall had gathered to fight. 3 had spread throughout the entire vast Sky City. There were many meetings in the city. Such a matter was naturally discussed enthusiastically. Jiao Ding, looking for the minister, is this lowly one here? Zhou Kuei asked. This lowly one is outside. Brother Lu, please go ahead. When a person comes out, he needs to report. If he needs to protect Dai Hua, he needs to do so. Hence, Kuei controlled his doppelganger to take a detour and head towards the inner part of the small hall. Then he imitated the small hall. Seeing that Chen was in charge, he cupped his fists and acted like a villain. Okay. Qian Yuding answered and gestured for the noodles to come out. Have a seat first. Jean Fac Kuei had his own objections. I didn't come here to find out if Qian could see through my clone. Although I don't have much confidence in my clone, that kind of thing needs to be verified before I can know. He then sat down at the side with peace of mind. After Qian Yudeng finished dealing with his subordinates, he looked at Zhou Kuei. Are you okay? As he spoke, he stood up and walked to the side, brewed a cup of tea, and brought it over. Zhou Kuei was flattered and quickly stood up to take it. I have something to do. Didn't you come to see if I have any orders? This was the first time that this lowly servant had personally served tea. Based on the current situation, Qian Yudeng clearly saw through my clone's weakness. Otherwise, he wouldn't have pointed it out. Qian Yubao didn't have anything to say. He looked at me meaningfully. Xiao Gao must have misunderstood something. He sat back down and said slowly, next time, what you do next time is wrong. What is it? Zhou Kuei was thinking about what would happen if the clone drank the tea. The clone looked like a body of flesh and blood, no different from the main body. However, it was still a clone after all. No matter what, he would know after trying it out. He then took a sip of the tea. To actually be able to taste the tea, it was quite magical. In terms of perception, when the tea entered the stomach, there wasn't anything wrong. It was just that the clone didn't have a physical body. The tea that was drunk was just stored in the body and there was a way to digest it. Inshio is arrogant. What kind of suffering did she go through? You are unhappy that he is able to take care of you. That brat was spoiled by you and might not have a bad temper. In the past, she needed him to take care of her. Qian Yudeng said. Only then did Zhou Kuei understand that I was talking about him being punished for Lin Inshio a few days later. It seemed like the reason why this lowly servant personally served tea today was because of that. Inshio is very obedient. Zhou Kuei casually walked out of the law department's small hall and prepared to pay a visit to the fat elder in the first hunting pavilion. Although the old man looked impressive, after interacting with him a few times, Zhou Kuei could tell that the old man was definitely a spirit ocean realm weakling. However, he didn't know why he was guarding a place like the hunting pavilion. Just as he walked to the entrance of the hunting pavilion, no one walked out. The 2 figures stood at the entrance, looking at each other with a foot of distance. There really aren't many enemies on the road, Xiang Ting thought. There was me. That guy I met coincidentally wasn't Ling Zhou, who had a fight a few days later. Seeing Zhou Kuei, Xiang Ting's eyes were spitting fire. Zhou Kuei was indifferent. After a moment of eye contact, Ling Zhou suppressed the anger in his heart and said clearly, I will teach him a lesson sooner or later. He then raised his hand and pushed Zhou Kuei to the side. Get lost. After suffering a loss next time, I didn't want to fight with Zhou Kuei in the city again. The taste of the defiant dragon thorn was so good. Zhou Kuei turned and watched me leave. The fat elder's leisurely voice spread into his ears. Bear with it for a while and the wind will be calm. Only then did Zhou Kuei retract his gaze and leave the hunting pavilion. The fat elder looked at me with a smile. Are your injuries better? Everyone wanted to ask about my injuries. I came to take a mission? Zhou Kuei asked. What else can I do? The old man has other things outside. What about him? Does he also take a mission? For now, I'm here to take one, not to visit you. The fat elder didn't understand. Visit you for what? Zhou Kuei said casually, I didn't come to see him. I have taught you a lesson, I will remember it. Zhou Kuei said but didn't do anything. Yes, I poured the tea. It would be a waste to drink it. I will do my own thing. Leave after you drink the tea. Ming, is he okay? Chen Yudang looked at me suspiciously. He felt that Zhou Kuei was weird today. Xiang Ting replied seriously. Let him do as he pleases. Chen Yudang was too lazy to care about me. He was also his son-in-law, so why did he care so little? Although I had high hopes for Zhou Kuei, I would remind him. If people didn't have self-discipline, it would be useless no matter how much others said. Rise while the clone was drinking tea in the courtyard, Zhou Kuei wore a mask and soared into the sky, heading straight for the city. At the same time, a Xiang Ting flew out from somewhere in Haotian City. At the bow of the ship, there were no cultivators controlling the ship. In Lu Ye's cabin, the spirit boat was explaining the details of the mission to the other members of the team. This was the first time Team A7 was out on a mission, so they were familiar with the process. In just a short while, Ling Zhou finished explaining and the other members were confused. That mission could be said to be difficult, but it could also be said to be easy. Most of the time, there wouldn't be a fight. If they had experienced the mission, they would have been wrong. 200 meters away from Vast Sky City, the cultivator controlling Lu Yi suddenly said, Captain, there is no one following you. Ling Zhou, who was resting with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. He got up and walked to the deck. Looking in the direction that the cultivator pointed, he saw a figure flying beside him a few hundred meters away. He looked around and saw that the person was wearing a mask, so he couldn't see the person's face. Ling Zhou frowned. He didn't care too much about it, mainly because the spiritual energy fluctuations coming from the other party was only at the true lake realm. He subconsciously felt that the other party was just following me and was surprised. But then he thought about how he didn't have a clone today. Moreover, compared to Shifu, Yenshi's creations were even more profound. Didn't Shadow know that his doppelganger would be seen through? In Xiang Ting's opinion, the clone was the same as the main body. The true lake stage cultivators would definitely think that it was an empty seat that could break through the avatar. As for Spirit Sea Realm cultivators, they would be able to see through it. Try it out. Zhou Kuei took out the one wool from his storage bag. He threw the clothes to the clone and the clone quickly put on the martial tree. The two figures stood up together and faced each other. Wang looked in the mirror. The martial tree and the retrieval. Zhou Kuei took off the mountain plate saber from his waist and handed it to the clone. The clone took it and left the room. I activated my spiritual energy and rushed to the law division. I took another sip of tea and savored it. Hearing such an evaluation from a woman, Chen Yudang's good mood suddenly disappeared. He wanted to talk to Zhou Kuei too much. I wanted to talk, but Xiang Ting was too lazy to talk. She just drank her tea quietly. After a while, Chen Yudang spoke. Are you still okay? Am I? He should get lost. Chen Yudang looked at me. Why did he suddenly lose his temper? Zhou Kuei put down the teacup and stood up, cupping his fists. This humble one will enter. The clone was perfect, and Chen Yudang couldn't see any flaws at all. Looking at the entire 4 prefectures, Chen Yudang was also the weakest Spirit Sea Realm cultivator. Even I could see the flaws, so Zhou Kuei thought that no one could see the flaws. The main reason was to let him see. This junior will take his leave. Zhou Kuei turned and left. The fat old man who stayed behind could totally figure out what Zhou Kuei was doing outside. After leaving the hunting pavilion, Zhou Kuei stood on the spot and muttered to himself. Then he turned right and arrived at the Law Division's small hall. Qian Yudeng looked at him. "Are you still okay?" "I finished drinking my tea." Zhou Kuei pointed to the place where he sat and sat back down. He picked up the tea and sipped it again. Qian Yudeng looked at me for a moment and said, "Big son, if he has something to do, he will go and cultivate. At your age, it is the time for you to withdraw your essence. Don't think that you will be arrogant just because you don't have some cultivation. The most taboo in cultivation is to slack off." Although it was on the way to be safe, I still instructed, "Be careful." "Captain, doesn't he feel that that person's figure doesn't seem familiar?" The team member asked. That was what I said, but Ling Zhou was still deep in thought. After hearing what I said, Ling Zhou suddenly realized that that person's figure was indeed very familiar. At this moment, a person's name popped up in his mind. "Luya?" I pointed. Chapter 982. "Captain, he's coming." The cultivator controlling the spirit boat suddenly exclaimed in a low voice. This was because the fellow wearing the mask that was originally flying by the side of the boat had turned around and was flying straight towards them. His aura was fierce, and his spiritual power was surging. He didn't come with good intentions. Zhou Kuei shouted, "Luya, how dare you?" They couldn't figure out what Luya was up to. How dare he attack them so brazenly? Moreover, he came alone. They had fought in the 100 Fragrances house before, and Zhou Kuei had suffered a little in that fight. It also made him realize that although Luya's cultivation was lower than his physical strength was not inferior at all. However, the two sides had restrained themselves in that fight and didn't use their full strength. There was a gap of 4 levels between their cultivation. Zhou Kuei believed that if he went all out, Luya would definitely not be his opponent. He had been holding a grudge against Lu Yi for losing face in the courtyard of the 100 Fragrances house, so when he met Lu Yi in the hunting pavilion, he spat out some harsh words. Who would have thought that before he could find trouble with Lu Yi would come knocking on his door instead? Although he was angry, Zhou Kuei was happy. Lu Yi took the initiative to attack them. If he fought back, it would be logical. Later, when the matter was brought to the department head, he would be able to justify himself. Today, he must teach him a lesson and vent his anger. Many thoughts flashed through his mind. With a roar, Zhou Kuei took a step out of the spirit boat and went straight to meet Luya. His spiritual power and qi and blood surged, forming a thick and solid shield on the surface of his body. His momentum also reached the peak in an instant. At the same time, he punched behind him. Clang! The sound of a long saber being unsheathed was heard. The saber flashed and slashed at Ling Qi's head. The Pan Shan saber was with the doppelganger. At the moment, Ling Qi was using a spare long saber. Although the quality was not as good as the Pan Shan saber, it was still convenient to use. The long saber and the fist were in a stalemate for a moment. Lu Yi and Ling Qi collided. Ling Qi's expression changed because he felt the sharpness of the saber. His qi and blood and the defense condensed by Luya showed no signs of difficulty. He dared to continue the stalemate. Once the defense was broken, he might not be able to take the saber with his body alone. His other fist punched out, but the force was small. When a physique cultivator's cultivation was higher, they would use something to defend Zhou Kuei, such as a shield. This was because when a physique cultivator's cultivation was high, their qi and blood would be vigorous, but their physique would also be weak. By using a physique cultivator's defense, Zhou Kuei would be able to avoid some damage and better protect himself and his companions. However, when one's cultivation reached the level of spiritual power, the defense formed by qi, blood, and leaves was no match for Ni Guang's defensive magic artifact. For body cultivators have a weak bodies weak, so they would use their weak bodies. Therefore, body cultivators with low cultivation levels would often use defensive treasures. If they could only rely on their weak physique, then using any kind of Ni Guang would be useful. In the face of the 7th punch, the spirit weapon turned a deaf ear to it. The long saber in its hand pressed down, and Lu Yi, who was already berserk, flared up even more. Under the long blade, a spiritual light flashed. Double-peak sharp spirit to do. Ling Li's expression changed, because at that moment, I could clearly feel that my defense had been torn apart. The long blade had left a bloody wound under my fist, so deep that my bones could be seen. Ling Qi's body was weak. If it were any other cultivator, their entire arm would have been cut into 7 pieces. Intense pain swept through him, but Ling Qi's expression was calm. He pushed aside Ling Qi's saber and the momentum of the 7th punch was reduced. My fist hit Ling Qi's chest, but it didn't affect me much. A defensive spirit rune blocked the power of the punch. Although the defensive spirit rune was intact, it still weakened a small part of the punch's power. Ling Qi put away his saber and got into a fighting stance. The spiritual energy in my body instantly sent chills down my spine. For a moment, I didn't have the illusion that I was in a starry sky. Then, specks of light covered the sky and attacked me. There were so few specks of light that I didn't know how to deal with them. Fortunately, I had a lot of combat experience. Facing this kind of danger, I quickly curled up and crossed my arms to protect my vitals. Chi chi chi, sounds could be heard as blood spurted out. Enai Guang's body slowly fell to the ground, and the ground below him was filled with large holes caused by the piercing arrows. "Captain!" Exclamations could be heard. Figures rushed out of the spirit boat. They were the members of the 7th team. We originally wanted to intervene. After all, our captain was a 4th-order true Lake Realm cultivator. In the War Province, unless Enai Guangjie came, who could do anything to me? But they never thought that their captain would suffer such a small loss in just a short exchange. They couldn't hold back anymore and rushed out. In the air, the spirit artifact chased after Ling Qi's falling figure. His saber kept slashing down. Even though he tried his best to use his spiritual energy to protect himself, the long saber enhanced by the twin sharp spirit inscriptions was incredibly sharp. Coupled with his spirit artifact, with his current 7th-order true Lake Realm cultivation, there was no defense above Wuxia that he couldn't cut open. Every time the blade landed, a new wound would appear, and blood would splatter everywhere. After all, Ling Qi was a profound body cultivator. Although the spirit artifact could break my defense, it would still take a lot of effort to kill me unless it used its divine sense. What's more, the spirit artifact didn't have the intention to kill. After an hour, I didn't even have the thought of making things difficult for Ling Li. I knew that because of Zhou Wang, Ling Li didn't hold a grudge against me. The conflict in the 100 Fragrances house was very likely directed at me. However, I didn't suffer any losses this time, so the matter was over. I, a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator, had always been petty and never held grudges. But Ling Qi said that he would teach me a lesson sooner or later. Since someone wanted to teach me a lesson sooner or later, of course I would teach Ling Qi a lesson. I knew that Ling Qi didn't have the heart to resist during the slashes. However, under the storm of attacks from the spirit artifact, he couldn't resist at all. He could only try his best to protect himself. Hong! My spiritual energy landed heavily on the ground, and both of my feet were embedded deep into the ground. The huge impact caused my legs to go numb, and I secretly exclaimed in my heart. Looking up, I saw the spiritual equipment that had chased after me and was about to kick me. I hurriedly raised my hands to protect myself, but it was too late. Enai Guang's kick was full of power. It hit my cheek and sent me flying dozens of meters, leaving a muddy footprint on my face. It was only then that the members of Team A7 caught up and attacked the spiritual tool. The spirit weapon was already caught off guard. Before it kicked out, it had already soared into the sky and rushed towards the nearby area. Along the way, it left behind a burst of unbridled and wild laughter. The members of the A7 team split into 2 groups. One stayed behind to take care of Enai Guang, while the other 7 chased after Ling Qi. However, after a short while, they saw Ling Qi's figure and could only return resentfully. At this moment, Ling Qi was leaning against the trunk of a small tree. His clothes were dyed red with blood, and his body was full of wounds from being stabbed and slashed. The flesh and blood around these wounds were twisted, and it was a hideous and terrifying sight. There wasn't even a muddy shoe print on his face, which made him look awkward and funny at the same time. Compared to the wounds on his body, Ni Guang's injuries were worse. I, a fourth-order true Lake Realm body cultivator, was actually beaten by a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator. Moreover, I was beaten so miserably. My face was as pale as the bottom of a pot. The members of the A7 team looked at Ling Qi's miserable state and were filled with righteous indignation. Spirit Sea Realm cultivator, this guy is too much. Captain, we can't let this go so easily. Yeah, Captain. Attacking a colleague is a serious crime. We definitely won't let this go so easily. The few of them were shouting at each other, and Xiaobu looked like he wanted to immediately bring the spirit tool to justice. This person is wearing a mask. They also saw my face. Who can be sure that I'm not a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator? Suddenly, a voice sounded. It was the FA Xiao in the team. In the A7 team, I've always been the think tank. When we carry out missions, I'm the one who gives advice to young master. I'm deeply trusted by Ling Qi. The same figure and the same cultivation. It's not enough. Moreover, you heard that Spirit Sea Realm cultivators use knives. This person also used a knife just now. The FA Xiao shook his head slowly. It's enough. The figure is small and there's no one there. As for the cultivation, it's not necessarily true. There are always some methods that can't be concealed. If this person is really a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator, then my strength is too terrifying. Crossing 7 realms and teaching their captain a lesson like teaching a lesson? Was this really something a 7th-order true Lake Realm cultivator could do? Hearing the FA Xiao's words, the few of them fell silent. Originally, they thought that the attacker must be Ni Guangjia. But now, they couldn't be sure. The main thing was that crossing 7 realms to defeat someone with a lower cultivation was too unbelievable. But if it was definitely a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator, then who could it be? This isn't a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator. Ling Qi, who had been silent, suddenly gritted his teeth and said, although I also saw the attacker's face clearly, the close combat was enough for me to determine the attacker's identity. The FA Xiao frowned slightly. He agreed, but since the captain didn't make such a conclusion, I didn't say anything else. I just asked, Captain, what do you mean? This matter can't be forgotten. Ni Guang stood up and looked in the direction of Grand Sky City. Let's go back to Grand Sky City with you. You have to tell on me in front of the minister. That time, I did suffer a small loss. I was taught a lesson to the point that I couldn't fight back. My body that had just recovered was severely injured and I had to rest for a few more days. But if a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator dared to do such a thing, then don't blame me for retaliating. Just as one of the team members said, attacking a colleague was a serious crime. Once it was confirmed that Ni Guang did it, I would lose a layer of skin even if I died. Although a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator was wearing a mask, I suspected that the minister didn't have the ability to verify this matter. After Lu Ye's mask, the crime of a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator would be hidden. Captain, the FA Xiao said solemnly, please reconsider this matter. After all, he suffered a loss today. If the minister finds out, it won't affect his reputation. Chapter 983. If today's incident wasn't Lu Ye's doing, it wouldn't be a big deal. The law enforcement hall had offended many people in the past few years, so it was inevitable that some people would secretly hold grudges against them and wait for an opportunity to vent their anger. But if it was really Lu Ye's doing, what would the law lord say? Zhou Kuei, a 9th-order true Lake Realm body cultivator, was beaten by a 5th-order weapon cultivator. What's more, it happened right under the noses of the other members of the A5 squad. If this news spread out, it would make the A5 squad look incompetent, and Zhou Kuei, the captain, would lose all face. Zhou Kuei's face became gloomy and uncertain for a moment before he decisively said, return to Grand Sky City. As long as he could punish Lu Yi severely, what did losing face matter? Inside the law department's main hall, Qian Wudang looked at Lu Yi speechlessly. Does this tea still have any taste? Lu Yi had already drunk 3 cups of water. He didn't hold back and refilled his own cup after drinking it. It's okay. Qian Wudang rubbed his forehead helplessly. If you like this tea, you can take some back. Many thanks, sir. Lu Yi quickly thanked him. Heavy footsteps came from outside and a short while later, a sturdy figure stepped in, wrapped in a bloody smell. Qian Wudang looked up and saw Zhou Kuei's miserable state. His face suddenly sank. What happened? From Zhou Kuei's appearance, it was obvious that he had been beaten up by someone. Moreover, the perpetrator had even used a spirit weapon. The fake wounds on his body were obviously caused by a sharp weapon. The most conspicuous thing was the large shoe print on his face. It looked extremely comical. It was obvious that he had been kicked in the face. Zhou Kuei was a true Lake Ninth Order cultivator, so it was very likely that someone in the Spirit Sea realm had beaten him to this state. Qian Wudang subconsciously thought that some Spirit Sea realm cultivator in Grand Sky City had attacked Zhou Kuei. In the end, Zhou Kuei was still a soldier under his command and had performed well in the past few years. Even if he had made a mistake, it should be him, the law department's law lord, who should punish him, not someone else. Your Excellency, please uphold justice for this lowly one. Zhou Kuei cupped his fists and spoke in a low voice. He tilted his head slightly and put on a look of extreme shame. This lowly one was ambushed 200 kilometers away from the city. Who did it? Qian Wudang asked coldly. He was furious. Sneakily attacking the soldiers under his command was unacceptable. He made up his mind. No matter which warrior of the Spirit Sea realm did it, he would make them give him an explanation today. Beating his soldiers was the same as slapping Gan Wudang's face, slapping the law department's face. How could such a thing be tolerated? Lu Yi. Zhou Kuei grit his teeth and spat out this name, the look of humiliation on his face becoming even more obvious. After all, he was a Ninth Order Origin Realm cultivator and had to admit that he had been beaten by a Fifth Order Lu Yi. But as long as Lu Yi was punished, it was worth it. Qian Wudang was stunned. He looked up and saw Lu Yi sitting on a chair not far behind Zhou Kuei with a teacup in her hand. When their eyes met, Lu Yi's face was blank. Who are you talking about? Gan Wudang frowned. Lu Yi, the one who had a conflict with me in the 100 Fragrances building a few days ago. When did it happen? Qian Wudang asked again. 10 minutes ago. What the hell are you talking about? Suddenly a familiar voice came from behind. 3. The sound of footsteps rang out, causing Zhou Kuei to turn around and see Lu Yi standing up with a teacup in her hand. Why you here? Zhou Kuei's eyes spat fire. When he came in just now, he was so focused on complaining that he didn't notice someone behind him. Why can't I be here? Lu Yi snorted and put the teacup in his hand on the table in front of Qian Wudang, cupped his fists and said, Sir, Zhou Kuei is slandering a fellow officer. Zhou Kuei raised his hand and grabbed Lu Yi's collar, saying fiercely, It was you? Don't think I didn't notice. Lu Yi didn't resist and just turned to look at Qian Wudang. Sir, you saw it, he even tried to attack me. How dare he act so presumptuously in front of Sir? Please allow me to teach him a lesson on behalf of Sir and teach him the rules of our law department. Let go. Qian Wudang shouted with a sullen face. Zhou Kuei didn't dare to disobey and quickly let go of Lu Yi's collar, apologizing. Sir, please forgive me, I lost my composure. This bastard has gone too far. Lu Yi raised his hand and flicked his wrinkled collar, standing there calmly. Qian Wudang looked at Zhou Kuei and said in a low voice, You said Lu Yi attacked you 10 minutes ago? Yes, Zhou Kuei replied solemnly. I had just received a mission from the hunting pavilion and led my team out of Vast Sky City. When I was about 200 li away from Vast Sky City, this guy suddenly appeared and caught me off guard. Division Chief, please take a look at my injuries. They were all caused by this guy. This guy is so lawless and dares to secretly attack and kill his colleagues. He is simply too daring. Please investigate this matter thoroughly. I don't know what you're talking about. Lu Yi snorted coldly. How dare you say you didn't do it? Zhou Kuei turned and glared at him. Don't think you can fool Sir just because you beat someone up and came here. Sir has sharp eyes and can see the truth. Of course it wasn't me. Lu Yi looked at Zhou Kuei as if he was an idiot. I know you suffered a loss at my hands a few days ago and you're angry. You're waiting for an opportunity to take revenge, but you don't have to resort to such despicable means. He then looked at Qian Wudong. Sir, this person is slandering me for no reason. Please uphold justice for me. Qian Wudong was annoyed by their argument and looked at Zhou Kuei. Did you see him attack you with your own eyes? Zhou Kuei said, he was wearing a mask when he attacked me, so he didn't show his face. However, his figure and cultivation were the same. I fought with him at close range for a short while and was sure it was him. It can't be him, Qian Wudong said. Zhou Kuei's anger turned into shock, and he looked at Qian Wudong in confusion. He stayed here for the time it takes to burn a stick of incense and drank 3 cups of tea. If you were really attacked before that, then it couldn't be him. Zhou Kuei was dumbfounded. If it was someone else who said this, he wouldn't believe it. However, it was Qian Wudong who said it, so he had to believe it. That's impossible, Zhou Kuei shouted. The person who attacked him was Lu Ye. How could it not be him? If it wasn't him, then who could it be? Zhou Kuei was confident that he wouldn't get the wrong person in such a close fight. Do you think I'm lying to you? Qian Wudong looked at Zhou Kuei coldly. Zhou Kuei shivered and quickly said, I wouldn't dare. Suddenly he thought of something and turned to Lu Yi. If it wasn't you who attacked me, do you dare to swear on Tianji Oath? If he swore on Tianji Oath, then all lies would be judged. But Lu Yi sneered. With Qian Wudong as my witness, I need to swear on Tianji Oath. If you don't swear on Tianji Oath, then it's you. You've done too many bad things and I don't know who taught you a lesson. Why do you have to slander me? Seeing that Zhou Kuei was about to say something, Qian Wudong slammed the table. Enough! Both Zhou Kuei and Lu Yi stopped talking. This department lord said it wasn't him. Zhou Kuei, stop arguing. Zhou Kuei opened his mouth but eventually nodded. Yes. Was it really not him? But if it wasn't him, who could it be? At this moment, Zhou Kuei's heart couldn't help shaking. Thinking about it again, Lu Ye was just a 5th-order cultivator. If he really was that strong, then in that short confrontation, Zhou Kuei had been beaten to the point where he couldn't even fight back. This wasn't something a 5th-order true Lake Realm cultivator could do. Could it really be a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator who had concealed his cultivation to teach him a lesson? Zhou Kuei's heart sank as he secretly thought of possible candidates, but couldn't think of anyone. While Zhou Kuei's thoughts were running wild, Lu Yi took the opportunity to speak up. Sir, Zhou Kuei took revenge and slandered his colleague. If Sir hadn't testified, I'm afraid this lowly one wouldn't have been able to explain himself. If in the future, the people of our law division continue to make groundless accusations and slander others without any real evidence, how can we enforce the law impartially? In the long run, the law division will no longer have any prestige to speak of. Sir, please punish him severely and uphold the integrity of the law division. You! Zhou Kuei turned his head and glared at Lu Yi. He had never expected that after he failed to lodge a complaint, Lu Ye would take the opportunity to add insult to injury. On top of that, this bastard even tried to use the law division's name to pressure Zhou Kuei. Zhou Kuei immediately had a bad feeling. Qian Wudong glared at Lu Yi. He didn't want to make a big deal out of this matter. In any case, Zhou Kuei had been beaten up this time while Lu Yi hadn't suffered any losses. It was best to turn big problems into small ones and small ones into nothing. But since Lu Yi had said so, if Qian Wudong didn't punish Zhou Kuei, it wouldn't be right. In the end, Lu Yi had indeed been slandered this time, and Zhou Kuei had indeed made groundless accusations. Then what do you think the punishment should be? Lu Yi said in a deep voice, Sir, you are the one in charge of the law division. I only follow orders. Qian Wudong gave Lu Yi a dirty look and scolded him in his mind. Then he turned to Zhou Kuei and said, You slandered your colleague without any evidence. Zhou Kuei, you will be punished with 1 month's salary and 10 lashes in the prison. Any objections? Zhou Kuei didn't dare to raise any objections. He lowered his head like a frosted eggplant. He cupped his fists weakly and said, Yes, sir. Qian Wudong waved his hand. Zhou Kuei turned around and looked a bit lost. It wasn't because he was punished, but because he was thinking about something. Lu Ye really wasn't the one who did it? then which divine sea realm cultivator was teaching him a lesson? The feeling of being targeted in the dark was unbearable, especially when the one who targeted him was a divine sea realm cultivator. Don't go out on missions for a while. Rest well. Qian Wudong reminded him again. Zhou Kuei nodded. After Zhou Kuei left, Qian Wudong looked at Lu Yi and said, I am satisfied. Lu Yi cupped his fists and said, Sir, you are a fair judge. I will follow your example and follow your example in the future. I will take my leave now. Chapter 984. At the entrance of the law department's main hall, several members of the A5 team were waiting. Seeing Zhou Kuei walk out, they hurriedly greeted him. Captain, what did the department head say? What punishment did Lu Yi receive? He'll have to be whipped. The taste of the defiant dragon thorn isn't pleasant. The few of them spoke one after another. Only the law cultivator noticed something wrong with Zhou Kuei's expression and frowned. Captain, the department head didn't uphold justice for you? Zhou Kuei slowly shook his head. It wasn't him. What? Lu Yi was drinking tea at the department head's place for half an hour. It wasn't him who attacked me. Zhou Kuei said. The others were extremely surprised. Who else could it be? Zhou Kuei shook his head. He also wanted to know who it was. While they were talking, Lu Yi leisurely walked out of the law department's main hall with a box of tea leaves in his hand. The members of the A5 team all looked at him. When Lu Yi walked past them, he paused and said, Remember to send your captain to the medical hall for treatment later. The taste of the defiant dragon thorn. He walked further and further away. The group was puzzled. The law cultivator vaguely sensed something and said, Captain, he means... Zhou Kuei smiled bitterly. The department head said I was spreading rumors and slandering my colleagues. He fined me 1 month's salary and 10 lashes in the prison. Hearing this, the corners of their eyes twitched. Obviously, they recalled the pain of being whipped a few days ago. Captain had just recovered from his injuries, and now he was going to be whipped again. It was over. Zhou Kuei returned to his own courtyard. Before he walked a distance, he activated his spiritual core and flew straight towards the law department. I want to try. The connection between my original body and my doppelganger isn't any weaker. Just now, when the doppelganger was in the law department's main hall and the original body went to attack Bao Yun, the two were 200 meters apart. The original body could still sense everything on the doppelganger's side and whether there was any coordination. If there was a problem 200 meters away, what about 700 or 1,000 meters away? A short distance would cut off the connection between the original body and the doppelganger? Zhou Kuei knew, but he would know after trying. He sped all the way towards the law department. Soon, Bao Yun noticed another problem. This was not because the avatar's spirit core was being consumed. Once the avatar's spirit core was used up, there would be no way to maintain it. How could an avatar replenish Bao Yun's energy? Later on, he had considered this problem, which led to the clone being equipped with a Pan-Shan saber. He didn't carry any spirit stones or leaves. He found a heavenly secret business alliance in the distance, borrowed the heavenly secret pillar, and spent some contribution points to buy some Lu Yi. Arriving at a place with people, Zhou Kuei activated the power of the talent tree with a thought. Immediately, roots that could not be seen with the naked eye extended from the center of his palm. They retreated into the leaves and very slowly absorbed one of Bao Yun's spirit pills. He could vaguely sense that the spiritual core in his clone's body had been replenished. Avatars could replenish their spiritual cores. This was to be expected. The foundation of an avatar was the combination of a split shadow and the Bingdi lotus, and the avatar didn't have any roots of the talent tree. Since there were no roots, the talent tree's power could be activated to replenish Bao Yun's energy. Zhou Kuei was pleased. This way, as long as he wanted to, he could maintain the avatar forever. He couldn't even fight with others. As for how much of the original body's strength the avatar could unleash, he hadn't tested it yet. This matter could be put aside for now. He had to confirm the distance first. In the process of flying, Zhou Kuei also tried to activate all kinds of spirit patterns. He found that all of them were easy to use and there wasn't any difficulty. It seemed that the avatar didn't have all the abilities of the original body, and even a divine ocean realm cultivator couldn't distinguish the real from the fake. Such an avatar was probably beyond the comprehension of the cultivators of the 4 continents. 700 miles, 1,000 miles, 2,000 miles, Zhou Kuei kept flying backward and stopped. He felt that his spirit core had been depleted, so he used the leaves to replenish it. The connection between the original body and the avatar was still as tight as before. It was necessary to try again. Bao Yun didn't feel that as long as they were in the same world, the connection between the original body and the avatar would be cut off. As for what would happen if they were in the same world, there was a way to confirm it. But Zhou Kuei faintly felt that if they were in the same world, if the connection between them would be cut off, it would be easy to say if the avatar could still be maintained. There was a way to try it. The avatar rushed back to Haotian City. The original body was refining the explosive fire spiritual stone. A month's supply would be delivered a few days later. Since he was free now, he naturally had to prepare for the next batch, so that he wouldn't have to rush. Moreover, he might use the explosive fire spiritual stone, so Zhou Kuei didn't mind refining less. While he was busy, there was suddenly no sound of clothes fluttering, as if no one had landed in the courtyard. Then a familiar voice came, "Eldest junior brother, you're here." Zhou Kuei was stunned for a moment, but he reacted slowly. He quickly got up and pushed the door open. There were 8 figures standing in the courtyard, 2 women and 1 man. The one in the lead was a handsome man with a head of white hair and close-fitting long clothes with red clouds on a white background. It made him look like an immortal, and there was a small wine gourd at his waist. Just his handsome and confident appearance alone could be found in the entire 4 provinces. It was Xiao Xinghe. On my right, Feng Yuechan looked left and right. On my left, there was a tower-like giant armor. His body was as strong as a fierce beast. Hearing the sound of the door opening, the 8 people all turned to look. 7 eyes met, and Zhou Kuei exclaimed in surprise, "7th senior brother." The door of the room next to him also opened, and Bao Yunfang walked out. Then Yi and Hupa heard the noise. "Senior sister Feng." Yi shouted excitedly and pounced toward Bao Yunfang. On the battlefield, the 2 men had only been together for a short time, so they were unfamiliar with each other. They hadn't seen each other for several months, so they naturally missed each other. Hupa followed Yi and rushed toward Giant Armor. Giant Armor reached out and grabbed Hupa in his palm. After rubbing it, Hupa closed his eyes comfortably. Usually, besides Zhou Kuei and Yi, Hupa was the closest to Giant Armor. 8th senior brother. Bao Yunfang looked at Li Baxin and bowed. Li Baxin nodded slightly and looked up and down at Xiao Xinghe. "True Lake?" "True Lake," Xiao Xinghe replied. It was because he had reached the True Lake realm that he left the Spirit Energy battlefield and came to Grand Sky City. "You have to speed up your cultivation. Eldest junior brother's cultivation is too slow. He has left you all behind." "What's eldest junior brother's cultivation now?" Xiao Xinghe asked. Feng Yuechan also looked over curiously. Zhou Kuei slightly pushed his spirit core. Xiao Xinghe was dumbfounded. How did he cultivate? We only met a few months ago, so how did he reach the True Lake realm? That kind of growth speed was too terrifying. As early as in the Spirit Energy battlefield, I noticed that Zhou Kuei's growth speed was very slow, and I was still trying to catch up. But now, it seems that even though my cultivation speed is fast, I am still far behind Zhou Kuei. Feng Yuechan also exclaimed, "Junior brother Lu is really amazing. Even if you came from a 7th grade sect and had seen many outstanding talents, compared to Zhou Kuei, these people were like the light of a firefly compared to the brilliance of the moon. I have obtained a lot of merit recently, so my cultivation speed is a little slow," Bao Yun said while looking in front of them. Feng Yuechan understood and giggled. "Is junior brother Lu looking for junior sister Hua Ci? Junior sister Hua Ci still hasn't come out of the Spirit Energy battlefield." Even though it was expected, he was still not disappointed. It was the same back in the Cloud River battlefield. Hua Ci obviously did not have the ability to break through to the Cloud River realm, but she suppressed her cultivation and cultivated in the 10,000 poison forest. Only when the 10,000 poison forest was about to disappear did she hurriedly break through and retreat to the spirit energy battlefield. It seems that it is the same now. The spirit energy battlefield does not have an environment like the Seven Poisons pool, so Wuxia naturally has to make good use of it. Your cultivation method is too similar to that of an abnormal cultivator. Your thirst for spiritual aura is very small. Even the spirit lot is of little significance to you. On the contrary, ordinary environments like the Forest of 1,000 Poisons and the Seven Poisons pool are extremely unhelpful to you. Although you are suppressing your cultivation now, as long as you leave the spirit energy battlefield, your cultivation will definitely increase rapidly. Feng Yuechan said, Junior sister Wuxia wants you to pass a message to him. Cultivate well and protect yourself. Bao Yun's eyes twitched. Don't cause trouble. Feng Yuechan pursed her lips and smiled. There were no stone tables or stools in the courtyard, so they all sat down. Have you gone to pay respects to the headmaster? Li Baxian asked. Xiao Xinghe nodded and said, I just came from the old man's place. If I did, you would know that eldest junior brother lives there. Turning his head to look at Zhou Kuei, he said, Eldest junior brother, the headmaster's intention is for you all to come and seek refuge with him. The old man said that he is now the captain of the law department's disciplinary hall, and there are 8 empty spots in the team. Those 8 vacancies are reserved for senior brother. Eldest junior brother, you're so considerate. I'll thank you here. Xiao Xinghe laughed. When I set off for that place, I was still thinking about where I would be assigned after entering the State Guard. It was only when I met the headmaster that I found out that Zhou Kuei's side still hadn't been assigned. My heart immediately calmed down. Bao Yun then asked about the situation at Huitian Valley's Spirit Land. I learned that a batch of disciples from our sect had advanced in Spirit Qi and retreated to Bao Yun's battlefield. Now, they were cultivating at Huitian Valley's Spirit Land. Most of our sect's disciples were now at the Cloud River realm. Since we didn't have the first batch to advance in Bao Yun, there wouldn't be a 7th batch or an 8th batch. When the time comes, it would definitely be broken. Presumably, our sect would be able to quickly recover in a few years. I had personally built Huitian Valley's Spirit Land, and there was no wolf pack guarding it, so there was no need to worry too much. The disciples could cultivate peacefully outside after arriving at Bao Yun's battlefield. When their cultivation improved, they could go out and explore to increase their ability to protect themselves. I had come from the Spirit Qi battlefield alone, so I naturally knew how difficult it was to go out alone. I had experienced that kind of hardship myself, so I wanted to let the juniors who came to experience it again. Has 7th senior brother been to the recruitment department? Bao Yun asked. Xiao Xinghe shook his head. I went to pay respects to the old man as soon as I arrived here. Then, I came here before, so I didn't have time to report to the recruitment department. Bring you guys there. Zhou Kuei stood up and called out. He also went to the law enforcement department to report to Qian Yudeng. The team members he had been waiting for were here. Chapter 985. He led Li Baxian and the others to the soldier recruitment department, registered them, assessed their military merits, confirmed their military ranks, and received their guard badges. The entire process was a walk in the park. They didn't have much military merits before, so they only received the military rank of Guowei. This was also the military rank that most true lake stage newcomers received. The military rank was related to the monthly salary. Guowei's monthly salary was only 10,000 military merits, which couldn't be compared to Lu Ye's military rank. The monthly salary of Guowei was 30,000, and Lu Yi received double the monthly salary, which was 60,000 military merits every month. This was also the condition that Gan Wudong agreed on when he asked him to be the leader. Lu Yi thought that all the captains were like this, but when he chatted with King Gengwu a while ago, he realized that wasn't the case. In the entire disciplinary hall, he was the only one who received double the monthly salary. He was also the only one who had his own residence in Vast Sky City. The other captains didn't even have a fixed residence. Only Divine Ocean Stage cultivators were qualified to have their own residence in Vast Sky City. Lu Yi finally understood that the condition that Gan Wudong gave him wasn't set by the disciplinary hall's rules, but by himself. Gan Wudong's intention was to tempt him to be the leader and then insert Lin Yinxiu into his team. It could be said that he put a lot of thought into it. They had already reported to the soldier recruitment department, and according to the normal procedure, the soldier recruitment department would transfer the new guards to the various mountain passes that needed manpower within 3 days. Thus, Xiying had Xiao Xinghe lead us around vast Sky City, while she slowly rushed to the Law Division's small hall to meet Gan Yudeng. She asked Gan Yudeng to transfer Lin Yinxiu and the others out of the Law Division, and then transfer them back to her own team. In the small hall, Zhu Jia saw Gan Yudeng and stated his intentions. Gan Yudeng laughed. He uses people only because of his family. Xiying's team had been lacking 8 people, and seeing that I didn't show any signs of recruiting, Gan Yudeng knew that I was waiting for someone. As for who I was waiting for, Gan Yudeng was also vague, and only then did he confirm it. Little one, although your 7th senior brother and I have only just advanced to the true lake stage, each of us has a deep foundation and can fight above our level. Although our cultivation is higher now, given some time, it won't be a problem for us to lower our cultivation. Moreover, you're familiar with us, so it'll be easier for you to cooperate with us when we carry out the mission. Qian Yuding nodded and said, You have heard of Pill Heart Sec's Lin Yinxiu and Feng Yuechan. You also know about our foundation. This martial king doesn't have any abilities? For him to think so highly of you. Seeing I'm gifted, do you dare to guarantee that no body cultivator in the same level as me has a weaker physique than me? Qian Yu's expression changed. Really? Of course. Giant Armor nodded seriously. You've seen it with your own eyes. Even body cultivators from first-grade sects pale in comparison to martial kings. Body cultivator, Dharma cultivator, sword cultivator, armament cultivator, and ghost cultivator are all gone. The allocation is appropriate, and he has considered it thoroughly. Since that's the case, I'll grant him permission. Don't thank me. Giant Armor cupped his fists. Even though she knew that Qian would not reject her request, Xiying heaved a sigh of relief when she heard me agree to it. Now that his team is broken, let's call it Team D4. Yes. The teams of the disciplinary hall were not numbered to facilitate the completion and handover of missions. Naturally, Giant Armor's team had always been numbered. Giant Armor had also asked Gung Xiying about this, so she was naturally vague. Whether a team's number was highly ranked or not was related to the overall strength of the team. Naturally, Xiying had no objections to Team D4's number. Qian Yudang signed another order and handed it to Giant Armor. Bring this order to the military supply department and you can receive a set of treasures specifically used by the law enforcement hall. However, he must remember that these treasures are extremely easy to refine. Try not to lose them. Yes. Giant Armor replied. The so-called treasures used by the disciplinary hall included the 8 elements restriction Luyi. Giant Armor had only used that item once. It required the cooperation of 8 people. When activated, it could restrict the flow of spiritual energy within a certain range. It was specially used to capture people. However, Giant Armor felt that this item was not of much use. Because the members of the disciplinary hall were all at the true lake realm, ordinary targets could be their opponents, so they needed to use the 8 elements restriction Luyi. The only one who could win against an entire team was Li Baxian, a small cultivator. The 8 elements restriction Lu Yi did not have any effect on Li Baxian's spiritual sense. Previously, he had suffered such a loss at the Immortal Dawn Mountain. When Ning Hu activated his spiritual sense, he instantly broke through the 8 elements restriction Xiying's restraint. However, since it was a setup for the disciplinary hall, he naturally wanted it for free. It was said that he would not have the chance to use it at any time. After leaving the small hall of the law department, he rushed towards the military supply department. When he arrived at the military supply department, he handed over the warrant signed by Qian Yudang and successfully received a set of 8 elements restriction Luyi. He then rushed back to his own courtyard and distributed the 8 elements restriction Luyi. As he distributed, he suddenly realized that one was missing. Where's Xiying Chan? Giant Armor then realized that the Divine Ocean Realm Cultivator had not shown up. Yi shook her head, indicating that she knew where Si Ying-chan had gone. When Zheng Qi was searching, he saw the Divine Ocean Realm Cultivator rushing over from afar. He landed in the courtyard and said happily, "Captain, did you hear that our team has no new members? Obviously, you heard about it from Chen Yudang and knew what he was busy with, so you quickly rushed back." Si Ying then introduced the two sides. Since they were on the same team, it was naturally better for strangers to introduce themselves. Among the people present, the Divine Ocean Realm Cultivator was the weakest. A first-order True Lake Realm Cultivator would be considered a mistake. Lin Yinxiu and the others all called her senior sister Lin. The Divine Ocean Realm Cultivator's eyelashes curled up as he heard this. Usually, Si Ying would call you by your name. When had she not been called senior sister? In a good mood, the Divine Ocean Realm Cultivator proposed, "Captain, why don't we go and hold a welcoming party for junior brother Li? It can be considered as a celebration for our team's establishment." "Wrong suggestion." Si Ying nodded. "Let's go to the 100 Fragrances Pavilion?" The warrior at the Spirit Sea realm cheered and led the way. Si Ying-chan and the others, who had never met you before, were all stunned by your childish behavior. They felt that it was a bit too early to call you senior sister. A moment later, everyone arrived at the 100 Fragrances Pavilion. What made Si Ying extremely surprised was that the 100 Fragrances Pavilion was not open today. The small door was tightly shut. Thinking about the next time they gathered outside to fight, Zhu Jia frowned and contacted Gungling Suo to ask about the situation. Soon he received a reply. According to Gungling Suo, Shinmanzi had no intention of transferring the management of the 100 Fragrances Pavilion before the next incident, so it was not open for business for a few days. He wants to misunderstand, not because of you. This matter is not a small matter, it's just that Manzi is willing to work so hard. Now, you are ready to join your team and work with you in the Law Enforcement Hall. Gungling Suo's team had always lacked a member, so it was perfect for Shen Manzi to join and leave. "Yi, is he going to treat us?" Gungling Suo asked again. "Your 7th senior brother, we are here. We wanted to come to the 100 Fragrances Pavilion to welcome us. Did Si Ying not introduce us? Bai Yunjian is wrong." After asking for Bai Yunjian's location, Zhu Jia led everyone over. Just as they reached the door, a person came to greet them. He had a potbelly and was dressed luxuriously. He cupped his fists and asked, "May I ask if you are Lu Yi, fellow cultivator Lu?" Zhu Jia was not curious about how this person knew him. "I am the shopkeeper of Bai Yunjian, Qianzhu Lai." The Divine Sea Realm Cultivator chuckled. He felt that this person's name was really boring. Qianzhu Lai, he was really greedy for money. "Everyone please come out. Fellow cultivator Gungling Suo has already greeted you and booked a room for you." Only then did Zhu Jia realize that he had seen this person before. How could he recognize him? So it was Gungling Suo who greeted him. It seemed that Gungling Suo was not famous in Grand Heaven City. "Thank you for the trouble." Zhu Jia called out to everyone and followed Qianzhu Lai inside. The small hall was very quiet. The tables were all full, and the young cultivators were chatting outside in low voices, exchanging toasts and toasting each other. "Bai Yunjian is Tianji Business Alliance's property?" Si Ying asked without thinking. The main reason was that Boss Qian looked like he could fight with others. Although I didn't have any cultivation, my physique showed that I was used to living like a prince. If I really wanted to fight with others, I would definitely be able to display the strength corresponding to my cultivation. In particular, only cultivators who did not come from Tianji Business Alliance would look like this. Qianzhu Lai smiled. Fellow cultivator Lu has sharp eyes. Bai Yunjian is indeed Tianji Business Alliance's property. If fellow cultivator does not have a banquet today, please take care of the store. Since it's Ling Suo's recommendation, there's no problem. Zhu Jia agreed. Since he was working in Grand Heaven City, he had to attend banquets. It was also his fault that he did not have a suitable place to familiarize himself with. Under Qianzhu Lai's guidance, they passed through the small hall and arrived at the wing in front. Everyone took their seats. Very slowly, delicately cooked food was served. There was no wine. They drank together. Slightly tipsy, the atmosphere gradually became quiet. Everyone drank to their heart's content. Even the Spirit Sea Realm cultivators and Feng Yuchan drank fewer cups. Even Hoopa drank more. It was mainly because he saw that the martial king was having a hard time drinking, so he wanted to have a taste. As a result, he felt something in his stomach after a few cups and thought that his alcohol tolerance was amazing. By the time the alcohol surged, he was already dizzy and lying on his back. It was not until the stars filled the sky that everyone left by Yunjian. The hot wind blew and most of their drunkenness dissipated. Returning to the courtyard, they each found an empty room and went to rest. When Zhu Jia chose the courtyard as his residence, he had considered this matter. There were not many rooms there, enough to satisfy the needs of the 8 of them. In the room, Zhu Jia sat cross-legged and dispelled his drunkenness. He continued to refine exploding fire spirit stones while silently perfecting his plan. Now that the team is broken, 7th senior brother and I will rest for 2 days before we go to the hunting pavilion to pick up more missions. This way, we can quickly earn merit points and improve our cultivation. During the day, Zhu Jia noticed that 8th senior brother Xiao Xinghe's cultivation had yet to break through to the 7th order True Lake Realm. Obviously, this was the result of his recent cultivation with the spirit tag. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.